We'll get him back in.
But once again, we're just gonna make this quick. DPS podcast episode 43. Appreciate all you guys for coming through. Shout out to the 25 people that's here right now during technical difficulty. I'm here with my boy Slummo Backslap. He is what have you been up to, Slummo? Since they didn't hear you the first time.
Oh, yeah, they ain't. It's all good. Yeah, I've had a pretty eventful day. I mean, I had to get 2 new tires. I mean, I'm not going. It's not that big a deal. I've had the opportunity to do some gaming today, which is what is whenever you can get some gaming in is always good. In the past week, I might be able to be hitting Twitch affiliate status, so pretty cool with that. I hit the necessary amount of followers. Thank you, appreciate that. I did kind of have a follower goal of me playing Death Stranding. Yeah, so I said, let me just go ahead and get that out the way now, and just go ahead and just do it and get it out of the way before I have to dread doing that, for much longer. Anyway, I did that earlier today. Shout out to everybody that came through, and I played some Splitgate today because playing Splitgate's always fun because it's awesome first-person shooter with some of the best gunplay you will find out there.
Some of the best or the best.
Yes,
don't backpedal. Don't backpedal.
Ain't no pedaling.
You said some of the best. You ain't saying before. You were saying the best.
It is. To me, it is the best.
No, then stand on that square.
Some people will say it was just some of the best, but I would say I'm not going to speak for other people.
No, speak for yourself.
I did speak for myself.
You said what is going on?
I don't know. Like
yourself.
See, this was going on, right?
No.
He's very insecure about his destiny. He's got to defend his man. So
that's my mistress, sir. That's my mistress. It's not a man.
Oh, okay, yeah. Don't seem like it. You seem kind of turned out, but it's okay. It's okay, man. It's all right. Anytime anyone brings up Splitgate, he has to immediately,
just have to see if there's a consensus out here, which is not. But okay, moving on from you because you trying to cap right now. We do have one of our special guests. We'll get our other one when he jumps back in the room. We have the man that codes a lot. He knows a lot of things in this gaming industry. He he calls Xbox people simps when it comes to their preferences. Code. Mr. Optimus, how have you been, man?
I am doing good. First, there are a couple of corrections already. Number one, Slow-Mo was not capping. That man said some of the best, and you tried to force him to cap for the game when he was trying to be cordial. So that's number one.
That's because he already been. You haven't been here for previous conversations, sir. That's all.
Oh, okay. All right,
I still said to me it's the best, but but most people would say it's very good. I would say some of the best. Speaking for in general, but you see how you get right.
The first thing that came out listen, I listen very well, and the first thing that came out your mouth was, "This game has some of the best." That's what you said first. I'm like, if it's you speaking from your heart, it should never be "this game has some of the best." It should be "this game has the best."
This man telling me how I should speak.
Hey, I'm just saying, amazing. Just keep the same.
This is amazing.
Look, you backtracking. That's all I'm saying.
Shout out to everybody that's watching this foolishness right now.
Cole got a bedtime he got to make sure he gets to, man. Make sure. Go ahead, Cole. Get back to what you were saying, man.
And another correction. So again, I can't be more clear than this. I am not doing anything about Xbox fans and their choices and what they love. I said Xbots, and an Xbot and an Xbox fan are not even close to the same things. It's really annoying when I go out of my way to make the distinction, and I'm talking about these extreme zealots, and then all the Xbox community just lump themselves in with these zealots and pretend as if I'm talking about everybody on Xbox. That is not true. I am very clear that I am aiming my sights at the Xbots, XBOTS in particular, and not the Xbox community or a normal Xbox fan. So stop putting that slander on me, before I have to take a trip to Michigan, Forte. You don't want this smoke, man.
I would love you to come up here, man. I'll take you out to lunch, man. Take you out to lunch. You know,
oh man,
I'll buy the drinks, you buy the appetizers. I got you, though.
Oh, hey, that's how I go. Right, that's how I go.
Yeah,
but no, I got nothing against the Xbox community, but yeah, these zealots, these clowns, yeah, I can't stand them. Absolutely not.
So let me ask you. So while you're on it, because I don't want to, make this all about you versus the Xbox people, because I know half of this stuff is theatrics and you just out there just having fun like most people. That's why I laugh at all these tweets when I see them, because I'm like, this is him literally just riling up the base, trying to see what he can get out of it. So that's fine. So let everybody know when you put out these tweets, what is the main objective you're going for when you do it? Set the record straight.
Oh, absolutely. It's just fun and games, man. You throw a rock in the crowd, Forte, you never know who you're gonna hit. And apparently I done hit a couple of people pretty hard with some of these rocks. And it's been getting some reactions, but at the end of the day, this stuff is just jokes, it's just fun, messing around. There's no harm intended, none of that stuff. But there certainly is a group of people that can't separate like just jokes and having fun from like actual conversation.
Right.
And in my mind, like honestly, Twitter's not the place for actual conversation. I tried it before. Different people in this gaming community, when I first started trying to engage with the Xbox community on Twitter, different people in this community was like, man, Twitter's not the platform for this. It's not going to work, so on and so forth. I'll skip the details. I'm 25, 30 tweets in trying to explain stuff and, trying to be patient. And eventually I saw the light. And so now it's just fun and games because it's not the place for serious conversation.
All right, cool. Well, I just wanted you to, that's another reason I definitely want to have you on. So I just want people to, hear you in a non-capping atmosphere. I want them to hear you on a show where you don't feel like you got to go above and beyond. Because first, and another thing, I need you to start defending yourself a little bit better when you're on AGS, man. Don't be letting these people come for your neck like they be doing every episode.
Let that man do what that man wants to do.
No,
why?
Man,
I don't understand why tonight you keep trying to give everyone all kinds of advice. This is the advice I want for you, Forte.
Yes, please tell me. I'm here for. I need
the audio good before we go live.
Oh my god, it had nothing to do with me.
That's the advice I had.
It had nothing to do with me.
You didn't see my levels going green or any one of the others levels going green before you hit live.
Okay, all right.
So that's all on you, sir.
Okay, be quiet. And we also got our other returning guests. We got our returning guests here for the second time. And if you come to DPS podcast more than once, you're an amazing person. Shout out to a Leviathan Gamer. How you been doing, sir? What you been up to? And what's going on with you?
Hey, can you guys hear me now?
Absolutely.
Yeah. Yes, we can. What's up, bro?
Okay. And it's not like botting at all? Correct?
No, it sounds
You're
fine.
good.
It's not super clear, but we can hear you. Yeah.
Yeah.
So, how you been, man?
Yeah, I've been pretty busy lately because I basically got 2 cats and a dog this year.
Dang.
And all of them basically were getting trained for the first time because the puppy we got about 5 weeks old. So, yeah, I've been busy. Haven't had a lot of time to game.
That's a lot of responsibility.
Yeah.
The 2 cats and a dog.
Yeah.
Oh man, that's serious. But I mean, like in the chances that you've had to play any games, what have you been playing?
Well, mostly I plan to get through all of the Halo campaigns again. So I finally finished Combat Evolved again for the 70th time at least.
Right.
Yeah. So
okay.
So what's your record, Lev, on the Warthog sequence at the end? Like, how fast can you clear that?
I have no idea. Like, I don't even keep track of that stuff.
Are we talking about the end of what, 2?
Combat Evolved.
The very last mission or level where you basically you're just in the Warthog and you're just trying to get
clock
through.
On it? Or
Yes, they do.
Yeah, they have like little speed runs. They have like all over YouTube, it's dudes that like could do it in under this
Oh,
amount of
yeah,
time.
yeah.
Oh yeah,
And
they
they had
had
the-
clock
Yeah.
running
They
separately.
had some Bungie devs that were doing. They were watching the speed run where a guy got some like amazing time, and they were like, "Whoa,
Mm.
yeah."
Back in the day,
I was just trying to beat it back in the day. That was it.
yeah. I back on original Xbox, I used to be able to do it really, really fast, but I haven't actually ran through Combat Evolved in a little while now for the campaign, so I
Yeah.
probably wouldn't have a problem getting through it pretty quickly, but I'd be nowhere near how good I was back in the day. So
You think you could get it in one try?
oh, absolutely, yeah. I once I get started, I would remember all like which places you go to get through
right.
each
Where to
section.
go left, where to go,
Yeah, I would remember all that about like just straight muscle memory, so to speak. But just reflexes and not doing it in a
Right.
while. I probably would end up running over a grenade and flipping over or some crap like that. So yeah,
Right.
but no, like Combat Evolved is I love that campaign. I really do.
Yeah.
It's pretty freaking awesome.
It's one of the best ones. Easily top at least top 3 of all the Halo games.
absolutely.
So are you trying to finish all of them before Halo Infinite comes out?
Yeah, on Legendary.
Okay. Oh,
We go no co-op, just solo.
Yeah, just solo.
Oh man, see that's
Hold
that's
on, man. So
that's
this is
a-
something Leviathan don't talk about this. But like he is like at least what top 100 in the world in Halo left.
Top 500, but still.
Top
Hey,
500. Yeah,
Yeah.
like he doesn't talk about it, right? But he is like one of the world's premier Halo players, but he never like discusses it.
Yeah, he lets,
Leviathan, we have to get you rolling with that. Me and Eric Cuts for the win. Shout out to her and the Troubleshooters. We've been playing some Halo, some Master Chief Collection, some Halo Guardians. We gotta get you in, man. We need some more people who are proficient in headshots.
Basically, he said he needs somebody to help carry him. Got you.
If I would like Forte to help carry me.
I would love to jump in
But
there
no, but
whenever I
you know,
got time.
Forte is just he's still stuck on Destiny, so that's
No.
unfortunately that's
Destiny-
not going to happen.
Destiny has better gunplay right
Whoa,
now. so-
slow mo! You moved on from Destiny. I thought like
I've
that was
been
part
mo-
of y'all
Mm-mm.
bond.
No.
I thought like you, Luca, and Forte, like
Mm-mm.
Destiny was y'all.
No,
thing.
no. That person's in the chat. His name is Surtaz117. That is my that's the Oracle of the fire team right there. Slow-mo wish he could be a part of that, but he left us a long time ago. He wish he could be a part of that.
I wish. You know what? If
he
I
ain't good enough. He
Code,
ain't good enough
Code.
at listen, people that cap at
Wow.
Destiny are people that aren't good at Destiny. Let's be for real.
wow. No.
Well,
okay.
I
All right.
feel bad because
Let me-
I
let
took
me-
over
let me- let's-
Leviathan's intro, and we done took the conversation. He ain't even done.
No,
Well,
no.
Forte is throwing
he's
slander.
absolutely
And-
right, Slow-mo. Let Leviathan finish
No,
his
no,
intro,
no.
and
You
then
don't
we can
get to
get back
throw
to you.
slander and then try to prevent me from retaliating, sir. People who throw shade at Destiny because it deserves it because it's not a perfect game.
Oh,
And there's all
definitely not.
kinds
It's
of
not.
issues,
I throw shade at
even
every day.
issues that the Destiny community clearly talks about all the time are not people who aren't good at Destiny. They just don't like the game.
Oh.
Okay. And furthermore, that's like the second shot you've taken about my skills, which you don't want to see.
In Destiny?
So you and clear
In
and
Destiny?
anything,
Oh,
anything.
Lord.
Of course, you bring it up to Destiny, like anyone gives a crap about
Hold
Destiny.
on. Okay.
Furthermore,
Do we want to announce the new show? We can announce it right now.
We'll get to it later. Furthermore, because I'm not done yet.
Okay.
Furthermore, your own fire team will rather replace you by the way you play.
They
Oh.
would. Oh, they would.
Oh.
You're absolutely right.
Oh,
Right. So I don't want to hear nothing from you about
Taz,
not playing the
let me
game
ask you
good.
a question. Taz in the chat. I know you're still there. Please tell me right now, would you rather replace me and have slow-mo? Was that something you would rather have?
They would rather replace you with a bot like an AI bot to just go in and play because an AI bot wouldn't go AFK trying to fix their capture card.
Okay.
Whoa.
Okay.
Whoa,
You got nothing else to say?
No, I'm
Go
gonna
ahead
this
and
go.
let our guest finish his intro. Thank you.
The floor is yours again, Leviathan.
Like, I don't even know where my train of thought was anymore.
Yeah,
after that.
that's what happens on That's what happens on
You were
DPS.
talking about how you were playing the Halo campaigns on Legendary, and so like you said you finished Halo Combat Evolved. I take it you're gonna try to start Halo 2 at some point.
Yeah, I've actually never soloed Halo 2's Legendary before
really?
because it's broken in the Master Chief Collection.
Where
because the tick rate of the AI is doubled, so they react twice as fast. And one of the biggest drawbacks about my gameplay is I have reaction time issues. Like, I have like the reaction time of like an 80-year-old grandma.
Hey, none of this ages stuff. Cut it out.
Well, it's just true that my reaction time actually is roughly around an old grandma's reaction time.
And you still top 500? That's what's up.
Yeah, that's because I'm very good at every other part of Halo's gameplay loop. It's just the physical reaction time, but that becomes a serious issue for me on Gravemind, if you know which mission that is.
Yeah, yep, sure do.
You spawn in where the two brutes are there and they start shooting you immediately. I have to reactively say, okay, I'm going to push the button now to back up. I have to do it before I spawn in, because if I do it after, I will not react fast enough and they'll kill me instantly. Like, it's actually like a reaction time bottleneck, and I've never gotten through that part before because I have to press the button before it respawns on death. It's just an issue with the Master Chief Collection version of Halo 2. I don't have that issue on the original Xbox, but that's 30 FPS and F480p. So,
yeah, I mean, dude, just hearing you say that, I've never beat any of the campaigns of Legendary by myself. I only beat them in co-op. Growing up, I was lucky enough to have my brother right there next to me because we're only 2 to 3 years apart from each other. So I've never played one by myself, and I always thought about doing it. I've actually tried doing it, but it was like the level of it's just the level that you have to play at like really slow in order, because everything hurts in that game at Legendary. Like, you turn a corner and you take 2 shots from any type of like a pulse rifle or something, you're absolute. It's ridiculous. So, I mean, I guess if you actually just, take your time and like really sit down and just try to progress through the levels and stuff, you can definitely do it. But I was like, I'm not about that time. So I salute you for even attempting to do it, and especially trying to do all of them before Infinite comes out. That would be that's a feat for anybody to do, honestly. Cole, what you out here trying to do like that, man? You out here trying to beat stuff on the hardest difficulty? You playing on Give Me God of War and God of War 4?
I start everything on normal, and if it's too easy, then I will put it up to hard. But my default is normal. Like Scarlet Nexus, I started that out on normal. It was just too easy. The fights were too easy, so I raised it up. But yeah, I'm definitely the default normal. Absolutely.
Okay.
Cool. Well, hey, Leviathan, are you going to do Reach and ODST as well, or are you just going to do just the mainline ones and then for Halo 4 and Guardians?
I'm going to do ODST and Reach as well.
Okay, cool.
Man, Reach, I love Reach. All right, cool. Well, let me get to some of these because there's a lot of people here. Shout out to everybody in the chat. We have Mitchie Dies a lot. He's been here, since the beginning. We got Spider 12. He's been here. Gaming Addict, Gaming Addict got a bunch of questions for you, Code, that he sent me. He said the community wants to know if you know these. He's talking about you cap for Zelda. He sent me some questions that he wants me to ask you live on air. So when we get to that part of the show, I'm gonna ask you these these questions, and we're gonna see if you know the answers to them.
Look here, gentlemen. This show is not about me. This
I
is
know,
about
but
Devin.
listen. When a man comes in here and says he gonna pay a super chat for you to answer a question, I gotta ask the question. That's how it's gonna be. We got Dark Saya. Shout out to you, Surtaz.
Shout out to WG, who was the first in the chat. Actually beat Michi Dies a
Oh
lot.
yeah.
And,
I haven't scrolled. I didn't have it scrolled up. I haven't scrolled up all the way.
He's been having some competition, but yeah. Spider 13, Raven Smith, Dark Saya. What's up? How's it going? I think Dark Saya's out in the UK, so that's he's definitely super late.
Out there in the late. Yep.
Arcade is in the house. X Burke is in the house. Shout out to Gaming Addict is here as well. That guy Smitty, appreciate Smitty coming through on the Twitch live streams as well. Lethal Terminus is in the house. Naru Hin, I think I said that right. Shout out to you. After His Passion is here once again. Oh man, Rich of Cucumber Eater. Oh man, shout out to you.
Oh.
Hey, okay. Dr. Sarakas and Kid Creed are in the house as well. Let's hit these super chats.
So we got
now typically we would not say slander, but this one clearly was a joke.
Yeah,
so
so-
God Zealot with the $5 super chat. Codes of fraud, and everyone knows it. Just kidding. Hook a bro up with a PS5 though.
Hey, PS5s will be in stores very soon. I hear that they're going to be a stock of them. I just don't know when, but soon
they'll last like 2 seconds.
Well, in store, if you get in good with your GameStop manager, take them a pizza or something, he might hook you up.
Shout out to Royal, the homie Royal, one of the Spectres, one of the Legion of Scum in the house. $5 super chat. He says DPS was good. The Thursday night hotspot was good. Shout out to the fam, Slow Mo and Forte. Here's to a great show. Appreciate you, Royal. After His Passion with the $5 super chat, and an AI bot wouldn't eat while the show was live and butcher the English language. We know exactly who he is talking about. Shout out to the Asher Luca with the $5 super chat. Not in chat because she's playing Splitgate, that amazing game we were talking about. But I'll take Nautical over pretty much anyone when it comes to PvP, which is what y'all were discussing. He's a beast. You know what? I will give Forte his props. He is a beast at PvP. He, when he's actually paying attention. And then the $2 super chat from Asher Luca. PvE is another story though. So yeah, your role on Nightfalls might be.
I ain't gonna lie, man. I left
might
them
be
hanging.
open.
I left them hanging on that one thing, and it was a conversation for like 20 minutes.
To give people context of what happened, just real quick, so we can get into the show. So I'm sitting in the party. I can't remember what I was playing because I couldn't play Splitgate because their servers was playing. So I think I was playing Warframe. I was playing Warframe. I'm sitting in the party while Luca, Forte, and our homie Surtaz are doing a Nightfall in Destiny. So they're just talking, and I know like the things that they're saying don't make sense to me because like they're playing the game and I'm not watching it. But then I hear a lot of silence, and then I hear I'm down, and then I hear Taz go I'm down, Forte, and then it's like there's a long silence, and then he goes, oh my bad, I was trying to fix my capture card. And then there's like this other long silence, and that's when that uncomfortable tension kind of silence, where it's like, now I'm paying attention because something's wrong. and then I'm like, wait a minute, bro. So you was messing around with your capture card instead of helping your teammates out, and then that's when Luca just goes in. So apparently, Forte was so far behind them in this Nightfall that they were in a no respawn zone, and when they died and Forte wasn't there, the whole mission got wiped. So that's what happened.
Been hot, boy.
And they were hot.
They was hot, bro.
They were absolutely hot, and I understood. And I'm just sitting here like, wow. I mean, you just didn't even. And the DPS chat knows with Forte how often Forte can go AFK. This man will record gameplay, put in the show, and then twice already he's recorded gameplay where he's just sitting there doing nothing.
I mean, he do got to cut all that grass, so you got to forgive the man.
It's the grass. It's the grass. It's the
Yeah, I
grass.
blame the
Yeah,
grass. That was a lot of hard work. Trimmed
But,
had to give my tree a haircut not too long ago. But
but no,
yeah.
no, but shout out to Luca, shout out to Taz, and we like to mess around with one another, of course. But yeah, Forte is very good at PvP, and I just would love to have him join us in some other things, as well as Leviathan too. I want to see Leviathan in action.
I played some split game with you. I like the game. I just cap because you cap. That's all it is.
I don't cap. You cap. That's you.
Right.
You are the capologist. You got a degree in capping.
First topic of the show, Legend of Zelda Skyward Sword reviews are out, but we're going to talk about what happened today when it comes to Valve literally doing something that I didn't think they were going to do, because Valve
dunked on them.
Yeah, they pretty much slam dunked on Nintendo on the day that they said that we're going to put out our pre-orders for the Switch, the OLED. So, Slow-Mo,
I love this kind of marketing. It's petty marketing.
So, Slow-Mo, why don't you go ahead and tell people what happened when it came to, Steam and, Nintendo and everything today?
Absolutely. So this is what happened. So today is supposed to be the day, is the day that the Switch OLED went up for pre-orders. And so everyone was pretty much anticipating that to be what the news of the day would be. Of course, we all know that the Switch OLED would sell out pre-orders in seconds, because it's a Nintendo Switch and literally everything sells out in seconds right now. So that's what we expected to be, talking about today. But instead, Valve announces the Steam Deck. And what is the Steam Deck, you say? Oh, yes, the Steam Deck is a handheld hybrid console kind of device. It's essentially like the Switch, but more powerful. It's like the Switch, but it has options for more storage. It's like the Switch, but it's like it has Bluetooth. Like, are you amazed now? A handheld device with Bluetooth? Like, who would have known? That there was someone who would make a handheld kind of device with actual modern features. So to get all the way into it, the Steam Deck is going to be running what they call Steam OS. It will allow you to access all of the games that you own on Steam. So that's like if you're a PC gamer and you have Steam and you got like hundreds of games, any of those games you're going to be able to play. It also will allow you to access Game Pass, which has been confirmed. And if you want, you can completely actually install Windows 10 or Windows 11 if you want, instead of just running with Steam OS. So it has
I thought you had to install Windows in order to get the Game Pass stuff.
I'm not 100% certain on it. I think, but it was confirmed you can do Game Pass on it. But I don't know if it's the same way it's confirmed you can emulate Nintendo games on it, because it's pretty much a PC. But I guess those are details that we'll get more as time goes on. I can't remember the exact date of the release, but it will go up on pre-orders tomorrow. And it does have a dock, small little thing, but it does have a dock. And it will allow you to connect to monitors, TVs, to not just play it on the 7-inch screen, but also on a whatever other device you want to play it on. Is the APU is using, it's an AMD APU, that's Zen 2 RDNA 2, and essentially for those who don't really know or understand all of that, is you're looking at a custom APU built for Valve and Steam that is same architecture as your Xbox Series consoles and your PlayStation 5. So that's what you're looking at, and it seems very, very impressive so far. Now, me personally, before we go into like fully discussing it, and Code or Leviathan can jump in on their side of things, I looked at it. I'm on the fence with getting one, because I don't really see, for me, a use for it. If I'm at home, I would rather play on my PC through Steam, my games on Steam and other things on PC, than on a handheld device, because it is only a 720p screen, much like the Nintendo Switch. So there's that limitation. I don't know if you would have, I doubt it, but I don't know if you would have access to play games at a higher resolution if you have it docked or not. I don't think you would, but regardless of that, I'm gonna keep it the same energy I had with Nintendo Switch. I don't like a 720p screen. Give me a 1080p screen. That said, I do think it based off of the architecture that it has. We don't see performance yet, but it should probably perform better than the Switch does, running that Tegra X1 NVIDIA chip that's ancient. But I also don't like the layout of the buttons on the right side. That they look too close together. They're too far on the edge of the entire device. And I think trying to hit that furthest right button would be awkward. It seems awkward. And that's just kind of some of my criticisms of it. And as I said, it's not for me. The only way I would want to actually play this is if I was on vacation or I'm, on a lunch break at work. And if I have the time, then I might, pull it out and play it. But otherwise, this isn't really for me. But in regards to what it does or what it would do, you're looking at something that Nintendo really, even though their stuff is going to sell out regardless, I think they should make sure their Switch Pro, when it does eventually come out, is on par or better than this. Because you're going to have people talking about how they can emulate Nintendo games on that and it perform better. And so, there's a segment of the population of the PC community that won't get a console, but they do get they would get a Nintendo device for those games. And if they feel like I don't even need to get a Switch now because now I got a handheld device that I can actually play those games on, then they're probably not going to buy your device. So I just think that's something that they need to be leery of, or going forward. So I've rambled on long enough.
No, that was that second part was a really good point because I didn't even think about the whole emulation of Switch games on PC and how if you can actually get it to run these games on there, then it would ultimately take the one benefit that Nintendo would have away. I mean, of course, that's mostly to the hardcore fan. When it comes
Right.
to
The casual's not going to do
they're
that.
not going to do that. Hardcore fans
No.
are the ones that's going to do that. But news does spread. I do know a bunch of casual people that got a bunch of homebrews on they Wii at home, so it definitely would happen. I want to go to Leviathan. Leviathan, what do you think about the introduction of this new handheld from Steam from Valve?
So yeah, it's definitely an ambitious product, especially because of even like committing to competing with the Switch in terms of like price point, and because it's only $50 more than the Switch OLED. So for the overall performance of the system, it's roughly around like the actual chip would be roughly around the PlayStation 4's performance. So it's substantially more powerful than the Switch. So for emulation, currently, so I know the performance of emulators currently, and the current Switch emulators don't have good enough performance at this current point in time to beat the Switch on this product. The emulator is not efficient enough yet for the Switch, but the Wii U emulators are.
Hey, Cole, there's some background noise you got there. Can you mute your mic for a little bit?
Oh, wow. Okay.
Cool. Thanks, bro.
Yeah, so the Wii U emulators are performant enough that you can play the Wii U version of Breath of the Wild on this, and you'll be able to run at a higher resolution and a more stable frame rate than the Nintendo Switch can run Breath of the Wild. And I can guarantee you that based off of the specs of the hardware.
Oh yeah.
AMD has less powerful hardware running the Wii U emulator and getting that. It's the Switch version that's not that performant yet. And the Switch emulator, Yozu, got a 2 times performance bump this year. So right now the software isn't there in terms of like Switch emulation, but it got a 2 times performance bump in this year alone. So right now like you could play Breath of the Wild, the Switch version, at a higher resolution, but then you'd be sitting in the 20s for the frame rate. Some games on the Switch will run better than on this system using the emulator than the Switch, but not all games. Like emulators are usually software bottlenecked. It's not the hardware that's limiting it. It's the software needs to get there after years of development. So like the Wii U emulator Cemu is already there, and you can run basically every single Wii U game way better than the Switch releases for these games, because a lot of Wii U games ended up becoming Switch games. So like Breath of the Wild, their Mario Kart 8, you can play these better than you can on the Switch.
So that's a good question. I wanted to ask you that. So the version of Breath of the Wild that everybody's running through emulation on PC, is it the Wii U version of the game? Is that why it runs so? That's why people say it just runs so great on there, because it's not the Switch version, it's the Wii U version. And since that was a version of the game they made, it just has better emulation across the board.
Well, I think the specs are better on a desktop PC though.
Well, like,
but
go ahead.
Yeah, so there's the Wii U emulator and the Switch emulator, and so for this hardware, the Wii U emulator will get around 1080p 60 FPS for Breath of the Wild, but then the Switch emulator will be 1080p 20 FPS. And it's software, because the Switch came out in 2017. So people designing emulators have only been working on it for 3-4 years now, whereas the Wii U came out in 2012. So they've basically figured out how to one-to-one map all the different functions of the Wii U to your typical PC. So when you see people playing Breath of the Wild at 4K 60 with everything maxed out, they're running the Wii U version. But it's the same, it's the same graphics. Like they don't change anything from the Wii U to the Switch for Breath of the Wild. It's just a resolution bump and then a frame rate bump, because I have the Wii U version of Breath of the Wild, and it can drop down to like 10 frames per second in areas.
But Lev, can't you brute force it with beefier hardware, even the Switch version?
Yeah, you can. But this specific handheld doesn't have that much of a performance gap over the Switch. It's only like 4 to 5 times more powerful. And to basically match the Switch like for like, you need to be 10 times more powerful right now. But
and as time goes on, as the emulators improve, then of course that ratio can be lower.
Yeah.
Okay.
And that's just the case for every emulator optimization. Over time, it gets easier.
Yeah.
So then how was the Xbox emulator so good, Lev? Because their backwards compatible stuff is software emulation. How was that so good?
So it actually, you'd have to go into some history about. So back in the day, it was the 6th generation consoles: PlayStation 2, Xbox, and GameCube. The PlayStation 2 found massive success because of 3 key factors: the games that it had on it, the DVD player that it had, and its backwards compatibility support meant that if you got a Nintendo 64 the previous generation, you could jump on the PlayStation 2 and catch up on all those PlayStation 1 games you missed. So the PlayStation 2 found immense success because it just was illogical to pick either of the other 2 consoles over the PlayStation 2. So backwards compatibility, both Nintendo and Xbox knew that backwards compatibility was a key component going forward. They needed to offer that. So Nintendo's response to that was, well, we'll just use the same chip in the Wii, we'll just increase the clock speed so that we could keep backwards compatibility with the GameCube. Xbox realized, well, NVIDIA screwed us over and overpriced us. We do not want to work with them again. So that's not going to be an option for us. And IBM's giving us a deal, so we aren't going to go with an Intel CPU. So they were jumping from the original Xbox using Intel NVIDIA to the 360, which uses IBM and AMD. So from that start, they knew that they needed a software solution. So going from the 360 could brute force that, obviously. So they put in a huge amount of effort into the software side of backwards compatibility back then.
Okay.
And then since they committed to that, they committed to doing that going from the 360 to the Xbox One. And they even added hardware instructions to the Xbox One to make it easier to map the 360 to the Xbox One. So there's actual.
Okay. So there was a lot of forethought with the emulation into the design of the hardware itself going forward.
Yeah. That was the funny. That was the funny thing, because Phil Spencer in the interview with Kind of Funny even spoke on that when they talked about the emulation of how they were able to do it. And Phil said they actually kind of got lucky when it came to that, because since that groundwork, like he said, was laid all the way back during the 360 era when they were making the new systems and stuff like that, it was already made there. So when they went to go implement it and bring that stuff forward, they didn't expect it to be as easy as it ended up being, because they thought it was going to be more work than that, but it ended up not being as much because they actually thought forward with it. But go ahead, Leviathan.
Yeah, so that's basically it. Is they knew from the start they wanted to have 360 support when they made the Xbox One. So they added the most problematic instructions from the 360, and PlayStation 3 has the same instructions that would be the hardest to map between the two hardware designs. So what would occur is it'd come down to clock speed, which would have to beat the 360 and PlayStation 3's clock speed, which was 3.2 gigahertz. And the Xbox One and PlayStation 4 are around 1.6, 1.75. So that's a big component, but they added the hardware instructions to compensate for that. Plus, then they also had the software side going from the Xbox to the Xbox 360. They already committed to making sure that they always had a highly optimized emulator for all their hardware. And that allowed them to then forward push that of the original Xbox and allow them to boost the resolution on the Xbox One and Xbox One X. Now they got FPS boost, auto HDR. They're injecting texture filtering. There's only 3 like real things left in terms of emulation Xbox isn't doing yet, which is injecting like draw distance manipulations, injecting lighting manipulations, which you can do, and being able to actually replace textures. Those are the 3 things that Xbox isn't doing yet for emulation on the Series X and Series S. But considering that they're basically going checklist by checklist of all the features, I can guarantee you they're at least researching how to add those things in the future.
Yeah. So, yeah, I mean, like that's extremely interesting, Leviathan, and I'm glad you were able to, explain that for us. About the Steam Deck, do you think so? We've kind of covered how emulation will make it possible for people to really, if they wanted to, play Nintendo games, although it's not exactly a legal route, but it is a route that people could take through the Steam Deck and therefore not really need a Switch. But do you think people are really going to do that? I know me and Forte kind of spoke about that already, that like it's I think when it comes to the casual gamer, and I'll volley this question to you, when it comes to the casual gamer, that the less obstacles to get to what they want to do, the better. So if buying a device, a Switch that automatically just does what they want it to do, play the games that they want to play, versus having to, like, say, look up a YouTube channel to show them how to get Nintendo games running on this other device that's more powerful but also slightly more expensive, like, which one are they going to do? Like, what do you think most people would do?
Well, most casuals will just buy the regular Switch. I could see a scenario where the casuals flip and say, okay, we're going to go with this more powerful hardware, but I don't think there's enough of a performance gap. Like, there's not enough of an advantage to this Steam Deck. Like, if it was magnitudes better, the Switch emulator got to the point where it can manipulate frame rates. It can basically swap out textures and basically mod these games. And the hardware creator, because emulators are fully legal, and the illegal portion about emulation is you're technically not allowed to just take the game. You have to purchase the game, and then you have to, like, if you get an SD card, rip it from your Switch SD card and put it on your emulator. That's now granted, they can't legally. You can't. It's really difficult to criminally charge you for
Right. I don't think it's going to be anything where people will Nintendo's going to come after each individual people doing that. But I meant more in the sense of someone, a casual gamer doesn't know what to do to make that happen, and so therefore they would have to then go seek out how do I get these games emulated onto my Steam Deck, that Nintendo, that are first party Nintendo games. And I think more casual gamers would kind of just choose to, man, I'll just go ahead and buy a Nintendo instead of dealing with this. But I do think, and it's something just kind of really hit me as I'm looking at the IGN footage that Forte is displaying on the screen right now. I might be leaning towards getting one of these eventually, and here's why. It just really kind of hit me that will be the actual one device that is a handheld that's capable of playing literally first party games from every single platform. When it comes out, you're going to have access to playing Horizon Zero Dawn, Days Gone, Detroit Become Human, and then and we already know Xbox Game Studios is launching all of their first party games on Steam at launch. So you can buy those games as well. You got Master Chief Collection. You're going to have Halo Infinite. Halo Infinite is going to be out when this comes out, as Sea of Thieves, all the other first party games. And then you can emulate Nintendo games. And then you also got PlayStation continuing to put more of their first party games on PC. This would be literally one device that you could take with you wherever you want to go, and it will be able to play almost everything that's out there except for the most current PlayStation game, first party PlayStation games. That's an amazing value. And something I did want to push back on something that you were saying there about it not being a huge upgrade over the Switch. Like power wise, sure, not a massive upgrade, but a lot of the little things that people have complained about with Nintendo over the years are rectified with the Steam Deck. Achievements.
Like what?
Achievements. People have complained about not having an achievement or trophy
not for
system
Nintendo
in
games. It's not.
Yeah, well, no, they don't have those with Nintendo games, but Steam has achievements within Steam. So you play games within Steam, you get achievements for, the same way you get achievements in Xbox Live and trophies and play. Yeah, so that's there. So that's something that people, as well as you're going to be able to have access to Game Pass. So therefore, you get achievements through that too. So all that kind of stuff is there. It has Bluetooth. Guaranteed you're going to be able to use Discord the way we're using Discord right now in it. So people are going to be able to play this and then talk to other people and play co-op and multiplayer games through this. Whereas with Nintendo Switch, you don't have that option. You need to use your phone or a different device completely, which isn't going to be a problem for this. There are so many little things that Nintendo has ignored that people have said, we would like these. And yes, they're minor things, but a collection of minor things can become, in total, a big thing if you don't address them when they come up. And Valve is addressing all of that stuff with this device. So I think that's something that makes it overall a bigger upgrade. Go ahead, Code.
Well, one thing I think that doesn't get discussed, and that's the notion of demographics. I mean, it's obvious to me as I listen to more people like you, Slow-Mo. I listened to Scumcast last week, and I was talking about the Switch. We discussed the Switch on AGS this week. I've seen it all over Twitter, seen a couple of other podcasts discussing it. And at the end of the day, Steam is clearly going after a different demographic than the Nintendo people.
Yeah.
And the people that will watch these types of podcasts and participate in these types of conversations, Slow-mo, all the stuff you're saying is a big deal. And absolutely, it has value for those people because those are the elite people who want the very best, the tip top of all of that stuff. And clearly, Nintendo is not interested in that demographic. And no matter how much we try to bully them into catering to our needs, they have been very consistent. We are here. If you want here, we can meet you here and we got you covered. If you want more than this, then somebody else is going to have to do that. And it looks like Valve has taken that up. But I want to be clear. I don't think Valve is competing with the Switch. I think there are different demographics that they're going after.
Yeah.
Well, I think a handheld device in itself is competing. I mean, literally, this is a hybrid handheld console kind of device like the Switch is. I mean, I think it's definitely competing in that market because there are people who may not be the target demographic, the bigger demographic that Nintendo enjoys, but there are people who still like. Not everyone who buys a Nintendo Switch all agree on everything across the board. There are other
sure.
who,
of course, there will be some cross section, but Slow-mo, that's negligible. Like there will always be a cross section.
Wasn't there hold on for a second, wasn't there a statistic, and I I can't remember what it was, but there was a statistic that showed a large percentage of people who owned a Nintendo Switch also owned a PlayStation or a Xbox. And so these are people who have chosen to use the Switch as like their secondary device. And I could see this replacing that. Like for that demographic that use the Switch as a secondary device, those are. I
don't know. So Slow-mo, not just you, but these conversations in general start to lose me when people say, like, Hard-A does this all the time. Like nobody wants that, or everybody wants. Like, how are you possibly speaking for everybody or nobody? Like, and so
I'm not
these
speaking,
like
I'm
large
not speaking
numbers
for everybody.
Of people. No, but
I'm speaking to a particular demographic.
Sure, but you use the phrase large numbers of people. Like, what does that even mean? How many large numbers of people have the Switch as a companion console? So much
again,
so that it's a major portion.
I would need to have that exact statistic, but it wasn't like 20%. It was a large. I'll go look for it.
So
but
you're
it was
saying
a
like
large
higher than 20% of the Switch's user base also has either an Xbox, a PC, or a PlayStation.
Yes.
I'm pretty sure I remember that statistic.
And so, if that is the case, you're saying if they lose 20% of those to Steam, that what?
I'm saying that a significant number of those people who use the Switch as a secondary device could look at the Steam Deck and say, I get more with this.
But but the question comes down to, I think people keep forgetting the reason people have the Switch as a secondary device, though. It's not because people don't buy a Switch for third-party games. Let's be for real here. They buy it. They buy Nintendo
power.
They don't buy it for that. They buy it because Nintendo properties are available on Nintendo, hardware. And
I found it.
And the people,
it's from Nintendo Life. I'm gonna put it in our DPS podcast chat so you guys can see it. It says more than 40% of Switch owners in the U.S. have another video game system.
But I agree with that. It's just,
it
just comes back to, I just think that the people, like, is there some crossover there where I do agree that some people probably will fall off? Yeah, but do I think it's going to be in these high droves of numbers? Because the people that we're really speaking are people like they have their Switch, and I think Code did a really good job of talking about. I forget if it was last week or the week before. I think it was last week you talked about this on AGS. A lot of people buy a Switch just because they want to play Nintendo property. It's not because of third party. People keep going out saying that Nintendo needs to, beef up the system to have better better resolution, better textures. But like I always tell people,
do.
Nintendo's. I'm not gonna say I don't want that. I think anybody that's a gamer would want Nintendo to actually do more when it comes to that.
It's not about the resolution. It's
about the performance.
The performance
that's
sucks.
The resolution and the
performance does not suck.
Mario Golf. Look, we had Jeff Grubb. Jeff Grubb told me Mario Golf drops
right
down
now,
to in the teens on frame rate.
I'm playing Mario Golf right now, and I don't see no issues.
Okay, so that's anecdote. So like, because you don't see any issues,
Jeff Grubb sees issues. Exactly.
He's not the only one. People talk about Breath of the Wild. People talk about how Breath of the Wild's performance.
Care about what Jeff Grubb's experience is.
Okay, I'm telling you, other people have said Breath of the Wild's performance sucks. I know for a fact when I owned the Switch that my favorite game of 2019, Fire Emblem Three Houses, had massive frame rate issues. We're not going to pretend like the performance ain't trash on the Switch.
Right. We're not gonna pretend. It's not pretending.
Okay, so you are pretending the performance isn't bad. It's bad. Isn't that bad? Is what you're pretending?
Absolutely, I contend that the Switch performance is not bad. 100%.
Okay, all right. So you off on that boat by yourself. Everyone else out here is in reality.
Okay, well, you know what? Let's let Cole. Let's let Cole. Okay, so Cole, what do you? Because Slow-Mo said a lot of things. So what do you think this means for Nintendo going forward when it comes to this handheld? Do you think it affects them going forward? Do you think third parties gonna leave the Switch to go basically these games are already going to be available in their libraries? And I think that's probably the one good thing about this system is it has a built-in library, because if you have a Steam account, you have your games. But is this something that Nintendo has to even worry about? What do you think?
Well, so I absolutely think that Nintendo has to have their eye on what's happening with the Steam Deck. But so will third party leave the Switch? I mean, I don't think it's relevant. It doesn't matter, right? Like they don't have to do special development for the Steam Deck. They just build their PC version of the game and then it runs on the Steam Deck. So there isn't anything new that's been added to the pipeline. So if they remain with the Switch or not is completely independent of this new device. It has to have a value proposition for the developers and publishers on Switch itself. Right. And as far as does Nintendo need to worry? I wouldn't say worry, but they would be stupid if they're not paying attention, right? So in building software, one of the things that we learned, we like hundreds of conferences and all these luminaries come and they talk to us about software and building software at scale and all of this stuff for people. And one thing that you find out, and again, this is why I keep saying people like us are the minority. I'll say it to the day I die. The average person will choose convenience over power 100% of the time.
Right.
And if you look in the United States right now, just using us as an example, and the example that they always give us in these conversations, if you look at automobiles, a stick shift by far offers more power, more control, and more flexibility. And the difference between a stick shift and an automatic transition as far as power benefit to the user is not even close. But the overwhelming majority of people will ignore all the advantages of a stick shift and they will take the convenience of an automatic transition because it's simply easier.
Right.
And when it comes to things like this, people are passionate. And so there are those of us who will fiddle with the PC, will go in, will adjust settings, will adjust memory speed. Like we'll do all of the stuff because like we're passionate about it and it's fun and we want to do it and we enjoy it. But we spend not a significant amount of time, but we spend a non-trivial amount of time tinkering along with the game playing because we enjoy that combo of just being part with the hardware, doing your stuff to it, improving your rig, all of that stuff, and then looking at the payoff of that. We almost always have the frame rate counter on because like that's important to us. We want to see the number go higher. And so we value. The majority of people just want to sit down and play. And
I do agree with you about that, and that kind of goes back to what I was saying about like when it comes to emulation on the
Yeah,
Steam Deck
exactly.
versus the Switch.
Mhm.
Most people, the casual gamers, just like, you know what? Instead of doing all that for a bit of an extra performance, I'm just gonna go buy me a Switch and not have to
Right.
worry about figuring out how to do that. But I do have a question to you, Code, about something that kind of came up to me because I saw some people on Twitter discussing this, and I thought it was interesting. From the perspective of a console gamer who doesn't want to build a PC, doesn't want to deal with the inconvenience of dealing troubleshooting things, so on and so forth, but then may want to play a game like Valorant, that isn't on console and is only on PC. And they say, man, that game's interesting. I'm interested in that game, but I can't play it. It's not on consoles. A Steam Deck would be a cheaper option to getting into technically PC gaming. Do you think there could be a market for that?
Oh, I absolutely do it. And here's the thing. Yes. So let me answer that question directly first. Yes, I think that there is a market of people where the Steam Deck is a nice entry into PC gaming. I 100% believe that. I don't know how big that market is. That's not my area, but I definitely believe that it is true. The thing is, though, and that's the thing that I personally think that the Steam Deck is missing, against just my own personal opinion. If you look at the Steam Deck as just an independent piece of hardware that's entering the market, there is no system seller game. Like, you use Valorant as an example. Like, what is the game that is pushing the casual market to this device? What is the content that is so desirable that it makes you take a second look at this? Right now, their push seems to be your PC library portable. And I think that's a good pitch. But again, you use Valorant as an example. If it was Half-Life Alex, if they could somehow bring that out of VR and like make it just a PC exclusive that's day one on the device, then I think that starts to turn a lot of heads, because gamers really want to see games. And once you get past the people like us, like, what are the games? And then when you get there, it's portable, but it's just like every other device at that point. It's just a prettier version of the portable games that we already have.
Yeah, I think that's something that, I mean, that is a good point. There aren't any big AAA popular titles that on there have been some that have started on PC, but they've eventually gone to console, like PUBG, for example,
Which
Fortnite.
was a mod.
Yeah, and but those games eventually go to consoles at some point. But I think as time goes on, because there are these indie titles that kind of do something different, like Among Us. Like Among Us started out on PC, a game that came out on Steam like a year before it blew up.
I
And
thought it was
then
like 3 years. Well, okay, yeah.
yeah, I think it was just a year, but it could have been more than 1 year. But this is a game that just floundered in Steam, which happens. There's so many indie games like Splitgate that we were talking about earlier, a game that came out in 2019. Actually, a really fun game and solid gameplay to play. But when you're a small developer, 1047 Games has less than 30 developers on their team. You're a small developer with no marketing
That's
budget.
amazing.
Yeah, amazing. They're able to come up with a game like this, with like 20, I think less, like 25 people, I think. But like, you got
Good
no
Lord.
marketing budget. So how are you supposed to get your game promoted? You really need like a big streamer on Twitch or something to play your game and to get it
Interesting.
out to be. And that's what happened with Among Us. I think it was one of the big female Twitch streamers. I can't remember her name, but she played it. I think it was Valkyrie. She played it, and that was free marketing for that. That game blew up just off of that. My son was asking me about Among Us, and I'm like, "How do you know about Among Us? I ain't said a word
That's
to
why
you
she
about
won
this."
content creator. That's why she won the content influencer of the year.
Yeah, because like and that's really what a lot of the smaller games on Steam that are really actually pretty good and unique experiences, and you see that a lot with Switch and Steam, is that there are a lot of indie games that get put on there because it's easier for them to get their games out there, but they're really kind of hoping somebody popular checks it out, and then they play it, and then now their game it's free marketing to get their game to everyone. And so even though there may not be a game right now that you could say, well, people are going to buy a Steam Deck to play this because it's only on PC. But by the way the market works on PC, the next big thing to really blow is probably going to be a game that was on PC and then goes to console. And so now this could be a situation where instead of it blowing once it finally comes to console, people can hear about this game and then get a Steam Deck instead of waiting for it to show up on console eventually.
Yep, I'm following you, and I agree. But Slow-Mo, here's the thing, because I want to clarify what I said, because based on what you said, I think I've given the wrong impression. I've misrepresented myself.
Oh, it's okay.
I'm not saying that there isn't a system seller game right now for the Steam Deck. I'm saying I don't know what it is. It may very well be like Tarkov might end up being the system seller or something. I don't know. You don't really hear that much about it. So I'm not saying that there isn't one. I'm just saying if there is one right now, I don't know what it is, and it hasn't been made clear to me what they're marketing as the killer title to go along with the game itself. I mean, with the device itself.
I feel you, and I'm actually surprised that Valorant hasn't come to consoles yet. Because that game on PC is probably one of the most popular games out in the world right now, and it's only on PC.
I'm pretty sure Counter-Strike is the most popular game on Steam right now after 18,000 years.
Say what you said, Counter-Strike?
Counter-Strike after 18,000 years is still the number one played game.
That's because that gunplay, man. That gunplay, it's so good.
Yeah.
But
I'm trying to look at like the number of people. Yeah, Valorant has 102,000 people are watching streamers play Valorant right now, and that's more than Call of Duty on Twitch right now.
Interesting.
That's more than Apex Legends and Call of Duty combined, and Destiny, and everything actually. That they're the highest right now. Well, I'm sorry, Warzone is slightly higher. The Call of Duty Modern Warfare isn't as high, but Warzone's the only thing that's beating it right now.
As it should be. You wanted to add something to it, Leviathan?
Yeah, Valorant is one of the biggest FPS games. I'm pretty sure it's not bigger than Warzone, but it's either second or third biggest. And the reason it's not on consoles is because of CSGO's flop on console.
Yeah. It didn't
because it came.
It doesn't have native controller support, which is why I don't play it. Yeah, that's true. That's true.
Well, there was a 360 PlayStation 3 version of CSGO that had like controller and aim assist and everything.
Oh, no, I meant Valorant because I play Valorant and it's all mouse and keyboard. And you can get a mod that kind of do controller support. My boy did that, and yeah, he had too many issues with it.
That had to be a losing proposition. How were you gonna go up against mouse and keyboard with a controller?
I know he got mollywopped. It was bad. Now with some games like Halo, you can definitely go up against someone on mouse and keyboard with a controller in Halo. It depends on the game.
No, then that got to be massive
as well.
Massive assist if you are doing that.
Yeah, you got to have aim assist. But then, but like for example with Splitgate has aim assist that helps controller players and it really levels the playing field. But then portaling and Splitgate with a controller is way slower than on mouse and keyboard. So you still aren't going to be able to. Someone can portal behind you and you're turning in slow motion as they're shooting a bullet in the back of your head.
It's always about movement when it comes to keyboard and mouse.
Yeah,
you can always. So, it's a lot easier to point and click, but it's still pretty easy to aim with a stick. But the movement side of playing on keyboard and mouse is literally.
And if you got a high resolution mouse, man, I've seen it with my own eyes. The amount of precision and control that you have is just, you can't match it with an analog stick on a controller.
Yeah, well, this was a great first topic. I'm just gonna ask this question about Skyward Sword because the game's not out yet. I just want to know kind of people's thoughts on it. But I know Slomo, you don't even have a Switch, so you're not getting it. Code, you get it tomorrow?
I wouldn't buy one for it. But
Oh,
go
Oh,
ahead.
I've already pre-ordered it, of course. Stop playing with me.
So you'll be there in the morning to go get your copy, or did you do it on the system itself?
No, I'm waiting for the delivery person to show up.
There it is.
Yeah,
What about
absolutely.
you? What about you, Leviathan?
So I'm not going to get it unless like there's something they haven't revealed about the game yet that is like a secret. That might be something good. But currently the value proposition isn't there for me compared to previous Legend of Zelda remasters and remakes. This is a substantial downgrade in effort.
Hey. Cut that out, Leviathan. You've been
No, tell
doing
the
great,
truth.
man.
Tell the
You've
truth.
been
Shame the
doing
devil.
great,
Go,
man.
Leviathan, speak your truth, man. Go ahead, and speak, bro. You got it.
Yeah. So the only real substantial efforts they've put into this is they've ported it from a different architecture. They've brought up the resolution to 1080p and brought the frame rate to 60 FPS. And then they've fixed quality of life things like UI and the very annoying opening sequences of Skyward Sword that would be
Stop it.
super handholdy in terms of gameplay to the
Man,
point that it
stop.
annoyed you. So there's improvements, but for me personally, it's because Twilight Princess HD got all that stuff, but it got a new dungeon. It had new textures that the developers custom made. Wind Waker HD got new textures. They actually changed character models, and they built an entire new lighting pipeline. Ocarina of Time 3D and Majora's Mask 3D, they were completely built on a completely different engine with new models, with higher polygon counts, with completely different layouts that were similar but not exact. Then there's Link's Awakening, got its Switch release, which was going from a 2D flat sprite based Game Boy game to a 3D programmable shader based with full on polygon models and gameplay and physics engine changes. So the expectation Nintendo has set for me, at least in terms of these, compared to what Skyward Sword HD delivers, it's they're not making any new assets for this game. At least none that they've shown off. There might be something like in the end game that they haven't shown, but for now, of what I've seen of it, none of the assets are new. These are just the source HD assets that they didn't ship on the Wii version.
So go ahead.
Yeah, so that's just my take on it.
Okay. Yeah. So basically,
What a horrible take that was. Boo. Boo.
Excellent take. Thank you, Leviathan, for
basically,
speaking truth, please.
So basically, in Leviathan's eyes, he said this is literally only a half step or a quarter step up from 3D All Stars. That's basically what he's saying, because 3D All Stars basically literally was just a port. It was nothing.
And they're charging more for it than it was when
well,
it first
you
came
got 3
out.
games with that port, so but no, I'm picking it up too. I'm just a Zelda nut, so I get all Zeldas day one. It's not just because I like Nintendo. I just love Zelda, so being able to play another Zelda is always going to be there. I'm just waiting for them to remaster, bring those Ocarina Times and Majora Mask up to speed, and then we'll definitely be in there then. So
talk about it.
Yes,
what?
sir. That's what I need. But moving on to the next topic, and I wanna go to you, Leviathan, first. Reviewers, you basically talked about it. You playing Halo, all the Halo games on legendary difficulty. How do you feel about reviewers reviewing their games on the easiest difficulty, sir? Is that a thing that bugs you? Is it a thing that you think should be happening? What are your thoughts on that?
Well, I'm fine with it as long as they disclose that, yes, I played this on the easiest difficulty, so that my gameplay experience might be different from what you're going to experience because of the difficulty setting that I chose to play it on. Like, I'm someone that wants reviewers to be more forthcoming about, oh, I didn't 100% beat the game, or, oh, I didn't complete the game because I got frustrated at this one spot where I had bugs, or like I want reviewers to be as like transparent about that as possible, because I'm also not a fan of reviews having scores on them at the end, because I think it basically makes people just look at the scores like blindly instead of actually reading the reviews and
I
saying,
agree.
okay,
That's very true.
is this game actually worth my time based off of what I look for in a game? Instead, they just go to, ooh, this game got a 9 out of 10. I must go out and buy it, kind of like mindlessly. So I'm fine with them reviewing it on easy as long as they disclose that. Like up front saying, yes, I played this on easy difficulty.
Or no, I did not complete the game, and here's why, so that people know. All right, well, this review is more of an impressions video or impressions, article on the game, because I think that was something else that kind of came up a few months ago. We were discussing, well, at least it was discussed within the gaming community that reviewers were saying that they weren't completing games. Well, I don't have time. I got deadlines. I didn't get it. The publisher gave me the game too late, yada yada yada. Well, I mean, that's something that should be disclosed in the in your review, that you have not completed the full game yet, or if there are restrictions. Because I've done some reviews where, for example, there was a review for a game that I was going to do, and they told me that I could not discuss up into a certain chapter the game. So I actually couldn't go any further in the game. Let's say like chapter 10, for example, in my review. I chose not to do that review because I'm like, I can't complete the game. So as far as I'm concerned, this isn't a review of the game, because a review for a game is a review for a full game. And I think that if there were some reviewers who reviewed the game and they disclosed in it what their restrictions were, okay, that's fine, because that at least informs the consumer of the nature of what you are actually discussing, and it's not seeming as if you are kind of swindling people or tricking people. Because what if there's a game breaking code at the end of the game? I said game breaking. I mean, a game breaking bug at the end of the game, but you didn't even know that because you didn't complete the game. But you're saying, oh, it's great, or the story takes a massive L at the end of the game. It has, like, the ending makes no sense. But you're like, the story's amazing. It's a great story. I love it. But you didn't even finish it. So how would you know, right? So I think people playing it on easy, and then I've seen reviewers even say this game was too easy, but they played it on easy. I'm like, I mean, it wasn't a challenge. Well, of course it wasn't a challenge. You played it on easy, bro. Like bump it up to normal at least, right? Like, so I'm bad. I'm ranting here, Leviathan. Go ahead and continue, but I do agree with you about that, man.
Yeah. So the big thing is I also don't believe in Metacritic scores either, because like I'm it's kind of like into my philosophy about life and everything is I don't like mindlessly giving simple solutions that are just like I don't like catering to like the people that want to put in absolutely zero effort for the things they care about. Like, so I genuinely don't believe in Metacritic even existing, or even review scores even existing, because I think it actually makes gaming worse. And that's different from saying reviews shouldn't exist.
Mhm.
I definitely believe games should be reviewed. I just feel that it ends up resulting in people skipping games that they would actually enjoy because of the review.
Yeah.
Like,
So I would say you would love like an ACG review, right? Because he doesn't do scores and he breaks it down per like sound, visuals, gameplay, story, or like all the different. He has different categories, and at the end he just gives his recommendation of deep sell, buy right now, completely skip, or wait for an update or a patch or whatever, right? So it's like, so that's the kind of review that you want to see.
yeah, I would love everybody that plays games and makes decisions based off of reviews to also agree that that's the system they want, because I think it'd make gaming a better experience, because I feel a lot of games just try to get a high Metacritic score and not actually deliver in terms of gameplay variety, because a lot of Metacritic skews towards, because reviewers inherently have their biases of, oh, this is the type of game I prefer. So they lean more towards story in terms of like you have to have a very good cinematic story to do well on Metacritic for the most part, which ends up leaving someone like myself who cares more about gameplay at like a weird spot where Metacritic doesn't correlate with me and my preferences at all. So it's literally a waste for me to look at the Metacritic score of a game. Like I don't even know the Metacritic scores of most games that I feel are
would you think that the publishers are partly the blame for this, where they put in contracts for bonuses with the developer if they hit a certain Metacritic score, then they're going to get, you know, a bonus, or, you know, for the studio. For example, there's famously known how Bethesda had a bonus for Obsidian for Fallout New Vegas, where if they got 85 Metacritic, they would get some big bonus, and they got 84. They missed out on that bonus. Like stuff like that is I can't remember the other cases, but I've heard of that before. And so that doesn't that kind of incentivize a developer to kind of add features to a game that they may not have originally wanted to put in its game design, but they do it anyway because they know it would be popular, it would work well, or it would be received well by reviewers instead of the actual gaming community. Like, do you kind of see how publishers can kind of they could influence that?
Yeah, that happens all the time in the game industry. And the reason why publishers do that is because gamers just look at Metacritic scores and say, oh, this game got a 95. Okay, everybody loves it. I have to go out and buy it. So like Metacritic actually does influence game purchases. So that's why they put it in there. Basically, it's good if you want gaming to like centralize around a specific design philosophy, but if you want gaming to have more variety, it negatively impacts that. And especially in the internet age, I've seen just in my life cycle alone, gaming has kind of lost that variety because all of a sudden now 70 on Metacritic is bad.
Right, that which is ridiculous.
Yeah.
So first, and if we do like Leviathan did with the emulators, if we go back in history a little bit, the whole point of Metacritic in the beginning, and I agree that it has since been like corrupted, I guess, or at least partially corrupted. The entire point of Metacritic was to take power away from the EGMs and the Game Pros and people like that, because there was a certain point in gaming where all of the reviews were in the big magazines. You wait for the magazine to come out and you read the reviews, and a lot of gamers made their decisions based off what was in EGM.
Right.
The whole point of Metacritic was to take power away from these big publications and distribute it across a variety of reviewers so that it wouldn't be so slanted towards one particular person's, like Lev said, their design philosophy. And to make it where it's more this is the overall feeling of the group. And so that's why Metacritic was born, was to have distributed reviews. And then that way, instead of getting just the view of this organization, because the magazine could be bought and paid, but the likelihood that you will be able to pay off 100 reviewers to come up with a cumulative score, that is much lower. And so having the reviews distributed, the idea was it would lead to a more honest assessment of whatever the game was that's being reviewed. Over time, of course, and that's why like all the contracts and those things were tied to Metacritic, because in its heyday, it really was a breath of fresh air. But of course, now that too is sort of it's not easy, but it's possible to manipulate Metacritic. And now I think they've been doing it all along, but there's definitely an issue with the weighting, because one magazine review will weigh higher. So it's those larger publications still have like more sway than the others. But at the end of the day, the goal of Metacritic was to be a solution. I do agree that Metacritic has turned into a problem for some people. For me personally, I never look at a review for a game. I just always make up my own mind if I want to play something or not.
Yeah.
And
Yeah, me too.
I realize that is a luxury that I have. A lot of people aren't able financially, and a lot of people just don't have the time to try stuff to see if they like it. They have to get some heuristic somewhere, and they have to narrow it down for them to make their choices. But the good news, and sort of like what Leviathan said, well, he didn't say it, but he hinted at it. He said he wanted the gaming industry at large to agree, like Metacritic is, or a number is not the way to go. And although we haven't done that directly, I think we have indirectly done that because there are way more sources to get information on games that you want to try out other than Metacritic. And there's YouTube, there's Twitch, there's just websites in general, and there is a lot of access to gamers now if they're willing to wait and do a bit of research on a game before they make a purchasing decision. I think that they don't have to rely on Metacritic at all.
Yeah,
And
I
you
will
got
also
people like Forte where you can. Sorry, real quick. This is my
okay,
final
go ahead.
statement. You got people like Forte where you go in, you buy the game, you can trade in, you can buy it at a lower cost because somebody traded it in, or if you buy it and you don't like it, and if you return it, close to when it was released, you get a heftier trade-in value for that same game.
Mm-hmm.
So a lot has happened to minimize the impact of making a poor decision, and then there's Game Pass.
Oh, facts. Yeah, I agree.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Real quick, I wanted to give Rap super chat, and then I wanted to
there's actually one before that because I never got Lucas. It's
no,
it was
I got
Luca
that one.
No, it was another one she said. After
Oh,
that.
you're right. Go ahead.
Shout out to the Ashley Luca with the $2 super chat. She says, "What up to the homie Code? By the way, F the Switch." So
wow, really, Luca? That's what we doing.
That's what we doing. And
okay.
Basement Radio Arcade Podcast. Shout out to Enrique with the $2 super chat. Says, "Salute Slow Mo, Forte, Leviathan, and Code. Great show."
What's up, Enrique?
Go ahead and take it, Slow Mo.
Yeah, I wanted to say that I also don't like how Metacritic sometimes misrepresents what a reviewer intended with their review and their scoring.
What do you mean?
Sometimes, well, for example, Metacritic has a certain grading scale, whereas some websites or some publications or gaming media sources may do a 1 out of 5 grading score. And so let's say if you give a game a 3 out of 5, which isn't a bad score at all, right. But that translates in Metacritic as a 60. And so people, yeah. And so that's something I noticed years ago. And I would see like a review, and I would see a publication that I would say like I think the reviews are decent, and then I would see they gave a game a 60, and I'm like, wow, they gave this game a 60, and I will go actually click on the review, and it'll be a 3 out of 5, and I'm like, well, that's not really a 60. That's like you're calling it like an average game, and
right? But the math would be 60%, but
yeah, but see,
the star rating is not 60%.
Right. And so like I've actually saw that happen recently with someone who was complaining that people were giving them crap about their review on a game that came out this year. They gave it a 3 out of 5. They thought it was a good game, and but people didn't read their review. They just saw what their Metacritic score was, a 60 out of 100, and said, "How dare you?" And it's just like, but that's not like, if you read the review, you wouldn't get that implication that it was what they would consider to be a 60 rated game. Like, we've seen games rated as a 60 and they're severely flawed games, whereas this person didn't feel like that game was severely flawed. And it's like, it's those situations where if you don't have a 1 out of 10 or a 0 to 100 kind of grading scale, the way Metacritic translates it when they pull all those reviews in, it doesn't work. And so it's flawed. And and I've always been the kind of person that reviews don't. Some of my most favorite games aren't the most well-reviewed games, and so I don't care whether a game gets a good Metacritic or not. It doesn't mean anything to me. Only time I really care about reviews is if people are saying, "Man, this game is buggy."
Right.
That's when I'm like, my ears perk up, and I'm like, all right, I might have to wait on this one, or maybe I'll just pass if it's going to be a game where the develop. Not only is it a buggy mess, but the developer seems to not have their handle on fixing it, and it really severely affects the experience. Then I'm just like, nah, fam, I'm just going to pass. I got other stuff I can play, and so that's the only time I kind of like appreciate reviews, letting people know about that ahead of time if a game is severely hindered in that area. If it's stable, that's what I really want to hear. It's a stable experience, and even then, sometimes like the review build that the developer had was stable, and then that day one patch breaks something. So that's what happened with Gears 5. Actually, everyone that was playing it in the review copy said, "Oh, this game's great." There's no problems here whatsoever in that area. And then the game, like, that day one patch hits, and then I remember losing 2 hours of progress because the autosave was bugged. And it just wasn't saving any of my progress up to after a certain point somewhere in Act 2. So I was kind of, if I wasn't enjoying the campaign so much, I definitely would have been like, all right, we'll put Gears 5 on the back burner for a minute. But I just went through that same stuff again because it was I really enjoyed that game. But if it's a game you're just kind of, it's okay. I'm not really into it like that. That's enough to make some people just drop it.
Yeah.
So
yeah, for me, it ultimately just comes back to, I think these not publishers, but these media outlets, they just have too much going on when it comes to their reviewers and stuff. The reason that a lot of reviewers choose to play games on the easiest difficulty is because of the workload. I always go back to Dustin Gary when he at IGN. He plays Destiny a lot. And he literally got to the point where he was playing so many different games that he had to literally stop reviewing any DLC that came out for Destiny because of the time it took for you in order to, get caught up to speed. And that's when they were doing review in progress for the game. So the review didn't even have to be out in the first day. He usually took like 2 weeks to get it out. But the fact that there was so much pressure from other games, especially during that time period when you're talking about September to October and November, where you're going to get the majority of your clicks for the year because people are like looking at games and trying to see what gifts they're going to buy for people, and people are putting their Christmas gifts, their list together to see what games might be worth their time and stuff. That's the most important time for them. So they put a lot of pressure on them to be able to put these reviews out in a timely manner. And I think when you're reviewing 10 to 15 games in a 30-day period, how else are you going to be able to get through this and do this stuff? The one thing I will say is shout out to Natalie. I forget what outlet she writes for and stuff. She wasn't ashamed to come out and tell people that, hey, I play games on the easiest difficulty, and I will always play games on the easiest difficulty when it comes to reviewing them. I think
divulge that in Does she divulge that in all her reviews, though?
I don't know if she did, but the fact that she came out and basically just when it was asked when it was just a comment on a another tweet, it wasn't like anybody asked her. She just came out and said, "Hey, I do this on all my reviews, and it will be continue to keep being done on all of my reviews." So if it's something that she wasn't doing then it's probably something she needs to start doing now. But
I would agree with that.
I think that should be a staple of all your reviews when it comes to that. But I just think until we get to a point where these reviewers have the time to actually dedicate time to actually getting the best review out possible, we're going to keep seeing this. And then I think it also falls on publishers and developers too. Stop waiting to the 0 hour to get your game out for people to actually review it.
You know why they do that.
Oh, we know why they do it. Do we know? Because the game isn't functioning correctly when it actually releases and stuff. That's why we always give Sony such, high praise when a game like Ratchet & Clank is being reviewed a week and a half before it comes out. When Rockstar put put out Grand Theft Auto 5 12 years ago, it feels like that thing was, you were able to see reviews on it a week and a half before the game release. So that shows that you have, you know, in not all cases does it feel like you are going to get the best version of a game, but 90% of the time when you see a review being done a week and a half to 2 weeks before a game is released, you pretty much have
a good sign.
It's usually a good sign that game is going to come out and be of your time. And you know, people they're not worried about the overall stability and stuff of the game, and that's something that we had a problem with pretty much throughout the whole 8th generation. And it doesn't matter what platform you played on, Xbox, PlayStation, Wii, Nintendo, anything like that. It's always been an issue. So I think that's the thing that we kind of need to fight against. And until developers and publishers start actually getting this stuff out faster, it's going to be something that compounds the situation in general. But that's kind of how I feel about it. But it needs to be something that is talked about, and I think you guys did an amazing job bringing some type of voice to what you think the situation is. Was there anything else you guys wanted to add to it before we moved on?
No, I think we need to try to maybe speed the pace up.
Yeah. That's why I was saying move on through that one. So
yeah,
I'm gonna skip the Halo one just for the simple fact that we're gonna talk about Halo a heck of a lot throughout the rest of this year, and I know I'm gonna get Leviathan back on when we get closer to when Halo comes out.
I mean, we can touch on it a little bit.
I'm not talking about listen. I'm talking about, I'm gonna combine it into the other topic where it's gonna kind of just make a little more sense instead of just talking about the sandbox in general, because we really don't know what they're going to be doing. I mean, outside of doing marking in the game, and I think all that stuff is cute, I think, but until we see the game in practice, I don't really care about what they're doing with the game when it comes to that type of feature set. I just want the game to be good. I just want to be able to play it. I want my 30 seconds of fun back. That's what I kind of want for that. But I definitely want to talk about this Destiny, because this is something Leviathan definitely wanted to talk about. And I kind of feel him, and being a person that plays a lot of Destiny. And I do want to start with you on something, Code, when it comes to this situation, when it comes to just PvP in general, because we're basically talking about PvP and the landscape of what developers have kind of been doing. Do you think it is what do you think of a developer, or what do you think of a development cycle of a game where part of your game is, you know, PvE, where you're player versus environment, and then you have a substantial part of your game being PvP, but over the last 2 years of the development of your game, you have pretty much done nothing to the PvP side of it. No maps in the last two, no new maps. They run maps from Destiny 1 over to Destiny 2, but no new maps, no new game modes, no new anything when it comes to the objective side of the game, outside of just bringing, you know, new weapons and stuff to the game like that. What is that basically? What do you think, as a developer that worked on games before, what do you think that kind of tells the player base when it comes to that side of the game, how you as a developer feel about the game in general when it comes to that side of PvP?
So you saying they have not released any PvP or PvE?
No, PvE is, they definitely release everything PvE, but there has not been in the last 2 years of development. There has not been a new PvP map added to the game. The only thing they added to the game is stuff that was rehashed from Destiny 1, so stuff that they brought back from the older game.
Before I say, real quick, aren't they working on a unannounced all PvP
Yeah,
game?
They are working. That's what I'm saying. They are working on something else too. But like I said, this is something that's been going on for the last 2 years, and I just want to understand, like, what do you, being the person that worked on stuff in the past, like, what do you think as a developer, and what do you think as a person that plays probably games that are being lacked in one side of the game, but then a lot of stuff is being released on the other side of the game? As a developer, what do you think as a developer that means, and what do you think as a player that means?
Well, as a player, I would be annoyed because I would feel like I'm not getting the attention that I deserve from this product. And unless the maps are like extremely good, right? So like Leviathan will play the same Halo maps he's playing for 20 years and he wouldn't care less. But that's obviously a product that's like, it's being actively supported, but it's not like under development.
Right.
Something like Destiny, you would expect them to at least give you new maps. We understand they have to balance them and do all of that stuff. But yeah, as a player, I would certainly expect that they are keeping up with the PvP side of things as well, because that is an important component of the Destiny franchise. But me personally, I don't like competitive multiplayer, so I couldn't care less. They never made a PvP map ever. That being said, as the developer themselves, usually that type of stuff is up to the publisher. Like there's limited time and budget for specific things. And yeah, if they're working on another multiplayer only game, I'm sorry, a PvP only game or product, app, whatever it is, yeah, that probably will take priority. And so they maybe have like redistributed resources to that kind of thing. Also, it's unclear if they had some intentions to do this stuff, and then COVID maybe got in the way, and so maybe their PvP plans got altered a little bit, and now they've spun it into this new thing. I honestly have no idea, but usually developers always want to give the best experience for their players. From my experience, and just hanging around with, well, not hanging around, but just being in contact with developers and sharing stories and different things like that. Usually the developers are happy that they were able to grow a community, to create a community and grow it. And usually they want to do everything they can for that community to help it thrive.
Right.
And when that doesn't happen, it's almost always because of the publisher doesn't give them the time or the resources to do it, and they got redirected elsewhere.
Yeah, definitely. And Leviathan, I know you wanted to definitely touch on this because I got some stuff I want to say about it too, but I definitely want to give you the floor to talk about what your experience being a person that plays Destiny and how you feel about the lack of, care that they have given to the PvP side of the game over the last few years.
Yeah, so it kind of gets into a lot of like PvP game design specifically. First person shooters, I have a lot of experience because even though I play a lot of Halo, I have literally 100+ days in other FPS games. So I understand a lot of the design philosophies that go into making a PvP FPS game. So when you make a new map, you have to balance it around everything that you allow your player to do from a gameplay perspective. So in, say, Battlefield, you give a variety of different classes and vehicles. You have to design around the fact that your players will be using a variety of different weapons: snipers, shotguns, assault rifles, and tanks they might be utilizing. You need to build these airspace for your fighter jets, etc. So when you're designing your PvP maps, you have to account and accommodate for everything you're going to allow the player to do. And when you add new weapons or gear or abilities to your game, you have to accommodate that in the map design, both retroactively for all the existing maps and all your new content you're going to be making. And for a lot of games like Call of Duty style games where you unlock a variety of different guns, perks, it becomes a hellish nightmare, to put it politely, to balance and manage. So a lot of shooters like Battlefield, the developer supports the game for about a year and then they abandon it. Or Call of Duty's solution to this problem is they release a new game every year in order to get around having to manage all these different things, because it compounds. The more content you add to a game, the harder it becomes to manage across the board for designing new maps. Now you broke your old maps, all this shit. It becomes a nightmare to deal with. And as you can probably guess, with all the different abilities and supers, subclasses, all the different exotic and legendary weapons that you can use in Destiny's Crucible, and the fact that it doesn't release a new game every year, it becomes an absolutely nightmarish environment to develop for, especially when the community tends to push you towards more abilities and new subclasses. So what basically you end up with when designing Destiny's Crucible experience is you have way too many variables to get anything particularly perfect. it's not feasible. There's billions of variables in Destiny 2's PvP. It's actually impossible for the developers to get it perfect. So they basically have to just settle. And this this causes an issue with map design specifically because there's way too many things to compensate. So you have to make these pretty simplistic maps that can work for any case and scenario you make. So Destiny 2 attempted at launch to mitigate a lot of these issues because they were having these issues in Destiny 1's development by taking away special ammo.
Taking away special weapons in general.
Yeah, and doing 2 primaries and then a power weapon. This allows them to control how powerful the player is by nerfing them. They nerf supers. So by doing this, and then they went to 4v4.
Yep, they went to 4v4.
So by doing this, it was easier to balance Crucible. The problem is this makes PvE worse for the PvE component of the game because Destiny has another problem that it has to deal with is that there's 2 components and something you unlock in PvE carries over to PvP and you can use it. So if they decide to take away a weapon in PvP because it's way too broken, that also impacts PvE because now you're taking away that weapon. They just put in 40 hours to grind for that content. So do you think people are going to be pissed? You can piss your community off by making quick fixes.
A lot of games have had that issue, especially loot shooters, because but the purpose of grinding for loot is to get better weapons, better gear, better loot. And so when you get that loot and you have a PvP component to your game, there's going to be the chance that some of that loot is going to create a meta. Some of it's going to, be better for PvP than other loot. I think you probably was going to allude to this is that when you have those kind of components or that part of your game design that is like that, you need to separate what those weapons do from PvE and PvP, so that if I grind, for example, in the Division, I grind out an entire gear set piece. I min-max it to the T. All the minor and major attributes are exactly what I wanted them to be. I am loving the way my build works in PvE. But then because people were running through the dark zone with that same build, just washing everybody, massive entertainment, and Ubisoft decide, yeah, we're going to nerf that. We're going to change how that build works. Now, in PvE, now I have to either create a new build or adjust to the way my build now works based off of something that I wasn't even doing.
Right.
What if I wasn't even playing PvP? Why is what other people are doing in this game affecting my experience? And that's how a lot of people they feel resentment to how the developer handles those kind of changes. Yeah, you don't want in PvP it to not be balanced, but you're going to need to put extra effort in. And I'm not saying they're being lazy or anything, but I think it's a choice that they make, and it's a choice that they make that it doesn't consider the feelings of the gamers that they are catering to, where they just don't separate PvE from PvP. And I've seen it happen in so many different games, and I've seen it always in the same way, where people are super pissed because they spent X amount of hours building their perfect build that works just for them, only for in one patch for it all to get, all for naught. So yeah.
No, I think in general it comes back to respecting gamers in their time, and I think that's the one thing that I think a lot of these games always struggle with. I think Bungie has always struggled with something like that ever since 2014 when Destiny 1 released, and They finally got to the point where they got the story and progression and stuff under control. I think the best parts of Destiny PvP was always back in Destiny 1. I think Destiny 2 plays a lot better. I think overall the experience overall is a better experience in Destiny 2. But I think they hit kind of this this mecha point when it comes to the gameplay, the way that weapons and abilities kind of married each other, especially in the first couple of years of Destiny 1. Now, we could throw the year 3 of Destiny 1 into the gutter because it was all about ability spam and one-shot kills. And I think that's another thing that especially games like Destiny really struggle by. When you nerf one part of a game, and I ranted about this a couple of weeks ago on this show, talking about nerfs and how they need to stop doing it. Just, overall, just make guns, just don't give us overpowered stuff just to sell your DLCs and stuff like that. And I know I was talking, like Leviathan, we were talking about this in the DM about, how stasis was something that kind of, was an amazing thing for the PvE side of the game, but y'all didn't know that this was going to break Crucible. I remember seeing the reveal. I was like, yo, this is going to be bad. This is going to be bad. People going to be frozen in the Crucible, and nobody wants to be frozen and be slowed down in their gameplay when it comes to a multiplayer shooter. That's not something that we signed up for. Now, was it fun to, inflict that punishment on other people in the game? Absolutely. But as soon as it happened to you, and it happened, and it didn't just happen to you once. It happened to you like multiple times in one game, and then it was all in the name of selling a DLC. And let's be for real, I can admit that. I know that's kind of the way that marketing goes. They show you the most flashiest thing. They get you super hyped for that experience, and then when the game comes, and Slomo will always be the first one to tell me, Destiny community is going to be the community that's going to love everything they put out at first, but they're going to be the first ones to complain about everything within a couple of weeks of the game being out. And it's not going to be anything different because they kind of set the community up for that. But it's still a lack of insight I look at 2 years go by. And yeah, you can sit here and say, yeah, we gave you new PvP maps. No, you gave us reprisal of stuff that you made 5 and 6 years ago. There's been no innovation in the game when it comes to that type of understanding of what your player base wants and stuff. Now, the reason people play this game as much as they do is due to, once again, gameplay, gunplay. All that stuff is phenomenal. I may cap and say there's no game out there that has better gameplay, and that's because I truly believe that. But there will be games that come out. I do believe Halo is going to come out, and it will have phenomenal gameplay. That is one thing that 343 has never struggled with, is the gameplay when you play in multiplayer. They may have made terrible decisions when it comes to the way that the gameplay is implemented in the game, when it comes to things that they did, especially like in Halo 4. But when it comes to the play in between the lines, when you're shooting a gun, that game feels phenomenal. And there's other games that's going to do that too. I believe Battlefield, when it comes to them having, not realistic, but back to modern militaristic gameplay, I think that's going to be a game changer for that franchise, because I think as bad as Battlefield 4 played when it comes to the servers and the stability of the game, when that game worked, people loved it. It had some of the best gunplay of any Battlefield game and any shooter that you could play at that time. And I think that's something that Bungie definitely needs to be on the lookout for. And transitioning that over to Halo, what do we think what do we think this means for a game like Destiny and games like, and other arena shooters with games like Halo coming out, and we have still free to play options of Call of Duty Warzone and Fortnite? Do we even
Splitgate?
Yeah, in Splitgate. What do we think? What do we think that means going forward for games like Destiny?
I don't think it means anything for Destiny. I think Destiny's community. I think it's been proven now over the course of many years that Destiny's community is there for Destiny. It's not you know what? I'll bring up a good buddy of mine. This is my friend Dub Deuce, and shout out to him. And this is the guy that I used to run Halo legendary campaigns with all the time. Me and him, every Halo release, we were doing that. We would go into PvP. I'll have all of our friends that will fall off eventually. Me and him were the main ones that continue to play it. When Destiny came out, when Borderlands 2 came out, we put the pause on Halo and just did Borderlands for a while.
Mm-hmm.
Then when Destiny came out, we put the pause on everything and just played Destiny for years.
Yeah.
Now, I remember this like it was yesterday because I just couldn't fathom anyone thinking in this manner. But I get it now. But back then I was just like he was talking a foreign language to me. But he said, dude, I think I'm ready to call Destiny my hobby and not gaming. And I was just like, huh? I mean, what do you mean? And he's like, I think I'm done because we would have just a squad. We would just continue to every new game that would come out. We would go play it, and then that'll be our game that we will always play together. And at some point, I was ready to move on from Destiny. I'm like, hey, you know, the Division's about to come out. You think there's other games that are about to come out? You know, Titanfall 2. Let's do it, right? And he was just like, no, I think I'm good now. And I'm just like, I don't understand what you mean. What are you trying to say to me? And gaming is no longer my hobby. Destiny is now my hobby. And I thought that was like, are you high? Like, why would you only want to play one game for the rest of your life? But he's not alone in that. There are a significant percentage of Destiny players that feel that way. They don't need anything else. They know what the time investment is. And the time investment into Destiny to get the full experience out of it means that you don't really have the time to play anything else. And so you're not gonna. If it comes down to it, you're just not. And so I say all that to say that I don't think Halo Infinite or any other shooter that comes out has any real chance of stealing away Destiny's community. They may play it for a while. We see some of our homies playing Splitgate now, right?
Yeah,
there's some people that we know they playing Splitgate at the moment while they're listening to us right now.
Right.
But that's fleeting for them.
Mm-hmm.
They'll go play a good shooter every now and then, but it'll never be Destiny for them for a multitude of reasons. And look, and I mean, you got a 700-man studio versus 25 guys in a shoebox. In a shoebox. I'm about to slander. I'm pretty sure they don't have a shoebox. They probably got a nice suite in the business park somewhere in Cali. But shout out to 1047 Games. I think they're doing an excellent job with that game. That said, you're 25 dudes. You don't even equal the team that just works on one portion of Destiny and Bungie. Therefore, you just can't really compete on that level like that to fully pull anyone away from it. And when a game really resonates with someone to the point where they are fine with just not playing anything else,
right,
then that's going to, even though I can get my buddy Dub Deuce to play other stuff, I know he's only playing it because he's finished his dailies and he's finished everything that he was going to do in Destiny that day.
Yeah.
So it's just, you can't, when you have a set community like that, you can't take them away. It's the reason why I knew, even though regardless of how Bleeding Edge played, and I thought it was a decent playing game, I had some criticisms for it. I thought it could be better. And they didn't address those things. It is what it is. But even if it was awesome, even if Bleeding Edge was realized all the potential that it had, it was going to fail anyway. And here's why: the hero arena kind of game is locked down by Overwatch. Period.
Once game to rule them all when it comes to that.
Yes, you're not in that community, in the gaming community, people who enjoy that kind of genre, it ain't big enough for anyone else. So you may get some of those people to try out Bleeding Edge. Oh, it's different. It's more melee based. Oh, these character models are a bit interesting. Okay, plays a little different. And they may play it for a few weeks. And even if it had more maps, even if they increased the speed to make the game speed faster, even if they did all the things that people told them in beta to do to make this game, sustainable, even if they did those things, they would not have equaled Overwatch's player base. And that's just the way it is. Halo Infinite is going to Halo has its own community that has not stopped playing Halo, and they are going to make sure, or at least I hope 343 is going to make sure that community is happy with the game, and so it does not matter, if they get. I'm fairly certain a lot of the Destiny community are people who used to play Halo, and they will go back and play Halo Infinite if it's great.
Yeah.
But eventually they will go back to Destiny, and the Halo community will continue to keep doing what they're playing Halo. That isn't, I don't think, the target demographic that 343 and Xbox Game Studios is looking for. When you make that game free, the PvP free, that's a sign that you want a particular kind of gamer that may enjoy this gameplay, but they also enjoy a lot of just PvP only games. These are the kind of people that may not play the campaign at all. They may just want to get into the multiplayer and play that. And on PC, you see these kind of people as the people who play PUBG, Valorant, and various other PvP centric PvP only games. These are the kind of people that are always in Warzone. The kind of people who are going to end up playing Battlefield 2020, what is it? Oh my, 2049? 2042. Why did I say 2049? I don't know why that was in my head. Sorry. But
9 years old, probably.
Hey, don't age me yet, sir. I'm not. I got 9 years before I get there.
Hey.
But no, I mean, I think that's the kind of demographic of new Halo players, Halo fans they want to create. It's been a while since it's been a Halo game. And so there are a new generation of gamers out there, and they want to turn those gamers into Halo gamers. And I think that demographic they have targeted, this is the kind of demographic that will, if they really enjoy the game, they'll keep playing it. So we need to, and they talked about this when they did that multiplayer overview after E3. They said that there's a balance that they're trying to strike where they satisfy the Halo community for what they want out of Halo, but then they also provide something unique and different that isn't happening in the market that Halo could provide that other games aren't doing, and brings new players in. And so I think that's a good focus for them to go for. Now, whether they get it or not, I mean, that remains to be seen. I hope they do, but I do think that they don't need a Destiny community. Destiny community will play it for a while and then go back to Destiny. But that's not the kind of gamers they need to actually bring in.
Yeah, I agree. And I think everybody has some really, really good points when it comes to that. At a certain point, it just really comes down to developers and publishers mainly are going to go with what's working for the most part when it comes to their game. And I think everybody talks about it being a two-sided game when it's really not. Destiny is, as much as I want to say, Destiny is this encompassing game that serves two sides of the community. It tries its best to do that, but at heart, the game is a PvE game. The fact that raids are some of the best things in the game. You got the weapon base, everything goes forward with you, customization and skins, all that stuff is kind of, the story has gotten a lot better. I mean, they have done more stuff on the story front than we ever thought they would do compared to what they did on the PvP side. So I think that's kind of where they want to go with this game at this point. They'll never drop PvP. I don't think that will ever be a thing. I just think in general, it just comes back to gamers just want, when you fall in love with something, you want to see it nurtured and taken, and respected. And I just think at this point, some people are just kind of disappointed in that. But there's other games on the horizon. And I think that's something that Cole said earlier. It's like, you're either going to serve those people, or those people are going to move on to something else. And I do think when it comes to the PvE side of it, Slow-Mo, you're right. I think people will come back to Destiny, but when it comes to that PvP side, I think a lot of people will probably move on to something else if they don't feel like their time is being respected.
So you think the okay, so you think that people would then start to split their time between the two games?
Oh, they already do it. They do it now.
So that I don't play Crucible. I still do all the other Destiny stuff. I do the strikes, I do the nightfalls, I do the raids. I don't do Crucible anymore. I get my PvP fix from everything else.
Yeah, I used to play Crucible every day, and I haven't played a Crucible match in a week and a half. It's just because
that's nothing. You're still within that time frame of
but
this is what Destiny players do. They go play something else and then come right back.
But it's the same thing over and over again. There's nothing to chase. There's
like I'm with Forte on that one. Like I played EverQuest when EverQuest first dropped. I played EverQuest every day, like legit every day for almost 2 years. I've
never played EverQuest, but I heard about EverQuest being crack. That's why.
It's called EverCrack. It was called
EverCrack. Right. That's the term, EverCrack. Yeah.
Man, and it was a point where, and I was doing well in the game, but I could just feel it inside of me. I was like, I'm done. And I knew I was. And no matter how much content they added or what they tried to fix, I was done. I sold my character on eBay. I had a pretty high level wizard. I sold it for $400 on eBay.
Wow.
And I was done. Like I have not played EverQuest ever since.
Yeah, and I try to tell people that at Slow-Mo, you might get your wish sooner or later. I don't, like I said, I probably will never fall off the Destiny wagon just because the PvE side of it is so good. It's really good. It's a compelling, and it actually challenges you in ways if you want to go after that higher end content stuff. But that PvP side, unless they do something drastically to change the game up, I don't see it being a staple of something that I'm going to play long term. That's why you can hear me talk about Halo Infinite and how much I'm ready to play something like that, because it's not the single player that is interesting me about Halo Infinite. It's the multiplayer. That's what I want.
Well, if you were serious about that, then look, I'll be rolling with you because you know how I am. I rotate my PvP fix like every 3 weeks. The only mainstay I've had recently has been Rogue Company.
Yeah,
but
PC got no games.
Oh,
stop it!
Lord have mercy.
You got all the games, and you know this.
So Leviathan, I'm gonna let you close it out. If there's anything else you wanted to add to this, and we're gonna get to this last topic so we can get up out of here with Phil Spencer. Was there anything else you wanted to add to this Destiny discussion, or just PvP in general and the direction that it seems like a lot of these games are going in the design of them?
Well, so there's also another thing about Destiny 2's PvP is right around when they started to drop off in terms of content, they started hiring for a new PvP character-based game.
Yes.
So a hero shooter, basically, in some capacity. We don't know what they're exactly going to do with that. But it's going to be safe to assume, just from what I understand of how to design your PvP games, is long run, even if they get Destiny 2's PvP to a good place, like somehow with new content, it's going to fall apart again in a year. It's just the nature of the game design of Destiny is the PvE negatively impacts the PvP as long as they're together. If they become two completely separate experiences, maybe I could see them getting Destiny's PvP to the right.
Yeah, how does Call of Duty do it right, Leviathan?
The simple answer:
as many special abilities and stuff.
Yeah, they don't offer special abilities to the same extent. Destiny's a lot about its MMO light aspects of grinding, and then Call of Duty solves a lot of these problems by releasing a new game every year, so that they can basically wipe the slate clean before they completely lose control of the balance. One, by adding new content, they just wipe the slate clean, reuse some of the stuff from the previous game, rinse and repeat. That's what Call of Duty's solution to this problem is. Battlefield hasn't had a solution to this. They just abandoned the game after a year. And it's just the design of a game that gives you too many tools off of spawn you have to accommodate for. And that's one thing Halo's never struggled with, and the arena FPS subgenre. CS:GO's never struggled with it because you don't start off. They can tweak and tune and control. So, for example, when Bungie was running Halo, they did one balance update, like major balance update, in their entire decade-long span of Halo, where they modified how weapons played. In Destiny, they roll out a balance update every couple months. And that's just the difference of game design. Because in Halo, if something gets broken, you can remove it from the map. Halo 3 had an issue where the Mauler was too powerful of a weapon off of how often you could pick it up on a bunch of maps. It was promoting people just to camp in corners and then spam this pistol shotgun effectively. So what Bungie did is they removed a bunch of the Mauler spawns from Halo 3 within like 2 months to fix this problem. And then they decreased the spawn rates of it. So when it does spawn, instead of it being like every 30 seconds, it's every minute.
Mm-hmm.
So by doing that, they could change, because of Halo's game design, they can avoid a lot of these pitfalls. So I wouldn't be surprised if Bungie does go back to some of that elements. And a hero shooter can exploit the effect of having only 24 or so heroes. And even Overwatch started to struggle with this balance issue once they became too many heroes, which is part of why they're doing an Overwatch 2.
Yeah.
So, like, that's the thing, is it's easier to manage. So they realize that they're never going to get Destiny's Crucible to be to the place that they would want it to be in terms of gameplay experience. So instead of wasting excessive amount of times on a yearly basis trying to fix it, and just screwing it up over and over again, to just take that development resources and put it to a new PvP experience that is designed around actually being manageable. And so that's the thing, is there's some hope for people that like Crucible, because a lot of the elements can transfer over that Bungie can cater more towards the PvP experience. But that's a few years down the road.
I got a question for you guys. This is for everyone. What if Bungie's PvP only game that they're developing, they haven't announced yet, what if it's not first person perspective? What if it's third person perspective?
Oh Lord. Destiny.
Why is that the reaction?
Oh Lord. I mean, look, Destiny
actually to try something different.
Destiny actually, when you play Destiny in third person in the scenarios that they have you play in it actually plays really well. Like, you can actually glitch the game to have a third person perspective and actually play it that way. Now, it doesn't give you like the camera angle in the most optimal position when you're shooting and stuff when you do it. That, I mean, granted, it's glitched, so it doesn't. It's not meant to perform
like
that way.
Right, like when you aim down sight,
it doesn't pull in on your character over the shoulder.
Yeah, it should be on your shoulder. It should be on your shoulder.
It doesn't do that. Right. But when it comes to the movement and everything, it's really good. So I wouldn't be surprised if that is something that they could do.
They probably have a leg up on that because they do have super animations where
they all put you in third person.
Exactly. So that being there from even the very first Destiny game kind of gave them a little leg up. Whereas like some of the games, for example, I mean, and Cole could probably speak to this better than anyone in here, but like if your game doesn't have any third-person perspective, then I imagine the developers don't even like put in animations for walking and movement and to make it look more natural with motion matching so that it looks natural and all that stuff, right, Code?
Yeah, I mean, that's typically what happened, or basically what happened with the Doom Eternal stuff, that people were complaining that when you turn on the ray tracing mode, and if you look at like the protagonist in a reflection, like the gun doesn't match, it doesn't line up and all that stuff. And that's because they never created any of those models. So what they did is they used the multiplayer model for the reflections and stuff, because there was just no need to create any of those type of assets. And it's a very similar thing to what you said, Slow-Mo. They'll have it for the multiplayer, the first person stuff, but then there's no need to create variants for things that's not going to make it into the game. That effort can be spent elsewhere.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's what's up. So yeah, I think in general, everybody, like I said, had good points around it. I think it just comes down to shoot.
Man, this
Honestly,
is real educational, Leviathan. I learned a lot
I
about
know.
multiplayer match
man.
balancing. Yeah.
And it's all because I didn't skip over it, and I actually kept as part of the conversation.
You're welcome.
Yeah.
I was not gonna drop it
You were
anyway.
gonna skip it. You was like, we're skipping this. Get it out of here.
I was gonna just tie. No, I did exactly what I wanted to do. Shut up. So we go. So let's trans. Let's trans. Hey, when
you gonna stop telling me to shut up? That's what you gonna do.
When you come to DPS,
you gonna shut up with the shutting up is what you gonna do.
Oh, at least you wait. So I haven't gotten to you yet because you haven't started cussing yet. So that means we're actually still on good terms right now. But all right, we're gonna move over to this final subject, and it's about Phil Spencer. He had his interview with Kinda Funny. He went over quite a few things in it. Nothing earth-shattering, so I don't think this is gonna really take that much time to go through a lot of it. But I want to start with I'll start with you, Slow Mo. One thing he did talk about was how Game Pass is going to be a vehicle to be able to have them. You basically think about bringing back games and stuff and being willing to refresh those franchises that are kind of the one and dones and stuff like that, or just bring back older games that they normally wouldn't have even thought about doing when it comes to like sequels and stuff to them, which I think a lot of people in the community always complain about. Xbox is all about these one and dones. If it doesn't work for them, they're going to move on. So what did you think about what he had to say around just how Game Pass kind of gives them the avenue to be able to do that?
I think it shows to me that they have some very advanced analytics that they're running in regards to Game Pass. And one, I'll repeat again for those who haven't heard me say this like a million times before, Game Pass is now their platform. It's not the Xbox console. It is the Game Pass service. That is the foundation of everything that they do. So this is why you will see that there's a game that they are making, or a game that they get a launch day game that will be in Xbox Game Pass but not on PC Game Pass, or vice versa. This is why that when Phil Spencer did his quote about when they did that big Bethesda showcase announcement, well, not announcement, but celebration of Bethesda and ZeniMax Media becoming a part of Xbox and Microsoft, that Phil Spencer said, you will be able to enjoy all of those games in the future wherever Game Pass is. And that's the long and short of it. Guaranteed, all of their games in the future will be in Game Pass, and that's it. So if you want to know whether that game is ever going to be on PlayStation, well, is Game Pass ever going to be on PlayStation? I know the door is always open. Whether it gets received by Sony is a different matter, but that's going to be how it eventually occurs. So all that said, they know who's playing what. They know how many people are downloading particular games. They know how many people are going through those games and getting achievements, yada yada yada. And so they see all these advanced statistics, and now it seems like Phil is admitting they're using some of this data to determine whether they want to bring back some old IP that they have. Now, I would love for them to bring back something like, say, Crimson Skies. I think that would be a great idea. I would love for them to try to find a way to bring back like Lost Odyssey, like stuff that was really awesome back in the day. Maybe start out with a remaster or a rebuild. For those games of that old, you would want a remake instead of a remaster. Yeah, remake, but doing something
no,
that.
Because I've heard these bots say, why would they take the time to remaster when they can just add auto HDR and FPS boost and the game is perfect like it was?
Nah, I won't agree with that. Shoot, yeah, I don't think some of these bots have played Jade Empire, because man, they tried to bring Jade Empire back with that, and my eyes was bleeding. I couldn't get past the first part. I love Jade Empire. I thought the story was amazing, But I couldn't
Absolutely.
get past
Yeah.
the first section when the whole, I'm not trying to do spoilers, but I think the game's like 30 years old now. But when your sensei, gets captured, like I couldn't get past that part because the game looked like a blurry mess on my TV. So like, no, you need to remaster some of these games that are literally 3 generations old. I say remaster, I mean remake. You need to
We know what you
remake that
meant.
stuff,
Yeah.
yeah. And
Yeah.
so I think them looking at this may kind of signal some ideas they may have in the future. And maybe this would be something that we would see through Xbox game publishing and not necessarily their first party. I know that we know that the initiative is doing Perfect Dark's remake, and Playground Games is doing a Fable remake, but it may not always be like that. They may work with like a AAA studio like IO Interactive, which they're doing the original IP with. But I'm using them as an example. It could be someone like that is a AAA developer that could be doing a remake of one of their IP for them. And so when you have a treasure trove of IP to pull from, you have those options, and it gives me a little bit of hope of maybe seeing some of these older games that I enjoyed in the past potentially might be coming back.
Yeah.
So my take on this,
yeah, go ahead.
sorry to cut in.
No, I was going to say
Go ahead,
one
go ahead.
bad. Well, one. I was just going to. I was going. Yeah, I was coming to you next too, but I wanted to read this from One Bad Mother. He said, "I seen so much Twitter code lately that this sensible code who sound like he had his midday nap is really throwing me off." Shout out to you, One Bad Mother. But
OBM is a hater, man. Oh my
Hey,
god.
Listen. Look, he's amongst friends right now. He don't feel like he has to put up his guard every 2 seconds while he here with us, because we ain't gonna slander him in every tweet that he does. But no. But go ahead, Cole. What's your thoughts on this?
So, man, now it's gonna sound like I'm catering to OBM. I wish you had to let me go first. So here's the thing, and like this is my honest feelings on this stuff. Like no cap, none of that. I think that the Xbox stuff from Phil was trash. I don't think Xbox itself is trash. I just think that the statement of Game Pass, I'm sorry, not Xbox, Game Pass. The Game Pass stuff was trash. There was no need to link Game Pass to this conversation.
Mm-hmm.
It's just more of the selling the service, that whole thing. Like Slow-Mo said, they're trying to turn it into a platform, which don't even make sense, but whatever. Maybe in some different context it could. They can do everything that they're doing without mentioning Game Pass. And as far as that stuff goes, though, I applaud that, because it is clear to me that Xbox leadership is awake and they're paying attention, and they're very fluid, and that makes me happy. Originally, they were very clear after the 2013 debacle. They were very clear. We will not be out of position on power again. We will not be out of position on price again. What did that demonstrate to me as a gamer? It demonstrated that they paid attention to the mistakes that were made, and they made a concerted effort to fix those problems. Boom. We got a console that can compete. I disagree that it's the most powerful. That's another conversation for another day.
Mm-hmm.
But I certainly agree that it is a competent machine. Each console has its own strengths and weaknesses, and I think that it is certainly a competitor in the console space, easily. They also was clear that they will not be beat on price again. They came out at the $100 cheaper, didn't have as capable a machine. It cost them. They're not making that mistake again. We're not gonna have this whole Connect thing no more. So now it's like, okay, bring all your old controllers, everything you got, everything just continues to work. That was brilliant from Xbox leadership, in my opinion. Xbox is doing the right thing. In my opinion, it is correct for Xbox leadership to focus on power, because that's where they lost 2013, and price. And then Game Pass adds to that whole price thing that they were so out of position with on 2013. So not only do we have price right with the hardware itself, but we've got this other subscription idea going over here where we are even in a better position with price. Mm-hmm. So that stuff, it shows that they're learning, they're paying attention. Microsoft as an organization, or Xbox as an organization, had taken this position that nobody likes single player games. This multiplayer stuff is what's happening. And they had all this data to show all of this stuff. And people like me were really concerned because, like, no, I love single player games. Like, not everybody wants these competitive online shooters. They just don't. Co-op maybe, but not everybody wants this like online shooting stuff. Like you're looking at the data wrong. And they really wanted this whole idea of a game like CS:GO where you make one game and you can play that one game for 8 years. And there are players that do that. And similar to what Leviathan was saying earlier, where his concern today is that gaming, because of Metacritic, gaming will sort of centralize around a design that appeals to specific groups of reviewers, and that's like the story-driven stuff. Back then, for me, I had that same fear, but in the opposite direction. My fear was because Microsoft was like a major player, and when they said stuff like that, my fear was that gaming will normalize around all this competitive multiplayer stuff, which is the exact opposite of what I wanted.
Right.
And in my mind, there is a place for single player. And the competition clearly demonstrated no, single player is alive and well. But they did it in a way, in my opinion, where it's not single player or multiplayer. It is, we need a healthy dose of single player and we need a healthy dose of multiplayer and give gamers options. So Microsoft got off of that position of multiplayer is the future. That made me personally very happy. So now we see them saying, okay, well, the Perfect Dark thing, like you guys said, I'm sure there'll probably be some multiplayer component. They're focusing on like the story-driven stuff, Fable, Avowed. They are still going to have the multiplayer stuff, of course. They got the Halos and the Gears. That stuff's not going anywhere. Forza, great. That stuff's not going anywhere. But they are adding to that stuff. And they no longer are preaching multiplayer only. We got the Sea of Thieves and all of that good stuff, and we don't have anything else yet. But the idea is they are focused on bringing a diverse set of games to the gamers. And one of the things that annoys me specifically about just Xbox community, not the regular Xbox fans, I mean just the extremists, is how they hype like Gears 5 or Gears 4, just Gears, or the Master Chief Collection. And they really expect for somebody like me to be content with playing the same game for 7 and 8 years. I'm not. Like, don't ever approach me with that. It will never be desirable to me. Once I got past my EverQuest fix, I just need variety. I need to play a game, go to the next experience, go to the next experience. I will dabble in some multiplayer here and there. But no, Halo, Slow-Mo said, his friend, like, Destiny was his hobby. So he's going to do like all his, like, no, I'm not going to play that one game for years and years. There are people that do great, but not me. I have zero interest in that. So hearing Phil and Xbox leadership speak positively about pivoting from multiplayer only and understanding, but they're not abandoning multiplayer either. And I think that's key. They're not sacrificing one for the other. He just understands, okay, that was not the correct direction. And we're investing in single player, we're investing in multiplayer, and we're going to bring back other franchises. All of that is great, but he didn't have to sell a Game Pass subscription to say that, because with or without Game Pass, they have everything they need to take this journey and like make sure they're focusing on single player experiences and reviving some of the IPs that they had in the past. I think that's great. Yeah. Matter of fact, honestly, I think everything that Xbox itself is doing is great. My problem is with these zealots who take everything that Xbox says and then they exaggerate it so much that then they set unreasonable expectations. But right. Microsoft themselves, I think the message is correct.
Yeah, I think in general, I just think it really just comes back to, because that's something that Matt Booty definitely touched on in his part of, not in this interview, but in the previous interview, where he said they're not forcing developers to, focus on service games or just multiplayer only. They're actually letting them still work on these story-driven base games and stuff. And that's what, and with Bethesda being a part of that, you're going to get a bunch of that still when it comes to their IPs and stuff. But overall, I think that's some really good points. But it ultimately just comes back to just the games, in my opinion. Like once the games start releasing, I always say, that's when the problem could occur. The value proposition of Game Pass, I feel like once you get to a point where these games, they're turning out 4 or 5 games in a calendar year of quality, that a lot of people sit there and say, like, is it going to be Sony quality? Who knows? We might get to that point at one point, but as of right now, we can only sit there and say that's kind of pie in the sky. But if they can
I think some of their studios have that potential.
they
I
definitely,
think, like Playground, Obsidian, they definitely have that potential to hit that level. For certain.
No, I think like I said, there's some jewels out there. Obsidian and like Playground. I think Playground definitely came out at E3 and flexed. I think some people look at Forza and say it's just Forza. But when I saw that gameplay, all I saw was, man, if this is what they're gonna do with Forza,
the game running on a high-end PC.
Oh, yeah, I don't care about it. I don't care where it was running at. Literally, I don't care.
Stop it.
Some code, I don't care where it was running at. The game looked phenomenal, and if it looks like that on my PC,
that's where I'm playing.
That's where I'm gonna play it at. I don't care.
Matter to me. And real quick, shout out to Fonzarelli Gaming. What's up, Fonz? Always glad to see Fonz in the chat. He says, ways with the $5 super chat, ways support my boys here on DPS. Glad to have you, Fonz. Hope you have a great night, man.
Appreciate you, bro. But no, like I said, I'll play that thing anywhere. I don't care. It people always say, well, that's a high-end PC. Okay, I got a PC that can run it at that fidelity too. That's all that really matters to me. But ultimately, when I saw that Forza, all I saw was Fable. I was like, if they can make Forza look like this, and I understand it's just a racing game, and Forza's going to have, Fable's going to have a lot more intricate stuff that's going on with it. But if they can even get it close to what it looks like in that regard, I'm like, okay, you met me halfway, at least a quarter of the way you met me. Now it just comes down to the experience you give me. And that's kind of the one thing a lot of people are probably worried about when it comes to a game like Fable being done by Playground, is because it's a game they've never done before. They've only made racing games. So
that don't mean nothing.
I know it doesn't. No, because they hired.
Exactly.
No, I'm just saying that's what people are worried about. But I was going to say they hired and brung in so many people that are industry vets when it comes to this type of game that I think
it's about the culture.
That's
of your
all that matters. Exactly.
In your workflow.
Exactly.
You can make whatever kind of game.
If they're passionate about it, as long as they're passionate and it is a game that they wanted to make.
Yep. It will be there. And that's what I think that's going to happen.
We have seen multiple times developers that were known for a particular kind of genre, and then they went and did a different genre.
Absolutely.
And that level of quality did not falter at all. Respawn going from first-person shooters to Jedi Fallen Order. Guerrilla Games going from Killzone to Horizon Zero Dawn. If you're a quality developer, you don't stop being a quality developer just because you're not making racing games anymore.
That's true. And you're also Code. Never mind. I'm not gonna say that, Code. I'm just gonna leave you alone on this because Code. Gabe, okay, so I want to turn this over. I'm gonna bring it back to you in a second, Code, but I want to, because we're gonna finish it out. I do want to bring Leviathan on this. So are you just on PC, or do you have one of the new Xboxes, Leviathan, or do you just have an Xbox in general?
So I play on PC whenever it's ideal for the gaming experience. Otherwise, I play on a base Xbox One that I got in 2014.
God bless you.
Oh man, the VCR.
God bless you.
Yeah, and so
I can't tell, Leviathan, either your credibility just went way up or way down, and I'm not sure yet which one. I'm gonna have to think about it.
God bless you, bro.
But obviously, to play with friends on the Xbox ecosystem, it's better for me to play on the Xbox One, especially for most of this generation, because of crossplay. Wasn't really a thing until the end.
Right.
And then for more single player games, if I end up playing them, I would tend to go towards PC in terms of those games, because obviously better settings, better graphics, I'd get a better experience out of it.
Wait a minute. For
As you
multiplayer,
should.
you use the OG Xbox, and for single player, you use PC. Is that what you said?
Yeah, because I can play with my friends on the OG Xbox because they don't necessarily have PCs.
And they don't.
But
And there's some of the games you play don't have crossplay.
well, now I've been switching more to PC, but for the most part,
Okay, I
I've
get
been,
what you're saying. Right. Throughout
Yeah.
this generation. Okay, I get it.
Yeah.
yeah, as games have been adding crossplay, I've been switching more towards PC, but I'm probably going to get a Series X and then just basically stop PC gaming because I don't have a lot of money, obviously, so I need to be careful with like my value proposition. And right now the PC market's way too expensive. I have to upgrade across the board. My PC is old. It's let's put it this way. Don Matrick was still in charge of Xbox when I made my PC.
Get you a Steam Deck, man. That's all you need.
Yeah, get you a Steam Deck, man. Oh man, he said I ain't trying to go all full board just like that just yet.
Yeah, so that's the thing is I'm making the decision based off of, well, is going just straight to PC for good the best route? And right now, the Xbox Series X is so much cheaper in terms of price compared to a PC that perform as well. It's a better overall
Yeah,
choice
the
for me.
bang for buck is higher for sure.
Yeah,
But
that's
that's
true.
Yeah.
what Microsoft is subsidizing it, right?
Yeah,
I guess
and
that don't matter to us.
Mm-hmm.
yeah, and the PC market is super overpriced. Like
Right.
it costs $1,500 to beat the Series X, and right now the Series X goes for $800 in my area. The Series S goes for 400 to 500 at switches, and the PlayStation 5 goes for $1,000 because of scalpers. Is so it,
Yeah, one of
like,
those is way more valuable than the other two.
Oh Lord,
Just a
here we go.
Mm-hmm.
We're gonna have to put we're gonna have to put some gifts next to each other of different systems with the word simp over it in a second, I see. Oh man. Go ahead, Leviathan. Don't let him take off your train of thought.
well, we could also talk a bit about, so obviously I don't have the most money because otherwise I just go PC max settings, go super hardcore into that because I have the capability to do that. I obviously have the tech knowledge to just straight, like I could design these components myself. So, and the fact that I'm even suggesting that I'm going to get a Series X just tells you how screwed the PC market is right now in terms of value. Is I can literally design these components, and I'd prefer to just go with the Series X, at least for now. And then I also know that right now AMD and Nvidia are heading to the point where the RTX 3090 is a mid-range GPU in 1 year. So the best you can buy on PC.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah, on P. So like I'm looking at it in 2-3 years, I can jump to PC permanently.
That's
Yeah,
interesting.
when the market gets a little bit more stable, because even now, the and Fonz in the chats, he's absolutely right. Do not buy from scalpers, because that's the problem. That's the why this is happening. Scalpers are continuing to use bots to get inventory at MSRP and then sell it for double on eBay, Amazon warehouse, market, whatever it's called.
You know how you change that, Slow-Mo?
Huh?
You know how they changed that?
You don't
get
buy
it in stores.
Sell it in stores, god dang it.
Yep.
Stop being afraid to let people, I mean the country done opened back up officially already, it seems. Sell them in stores and you won't have to worry about this. They keep talking
That's
about
true. Yeah, because a scalper in Idaho can't steal 30 copies. Not steal, but purchase 30 copies.
Steal.
I feel like it's stealing, but whatever, right? Purchase 30 copies of a GPU or a PlayStation off of Walmart, and then sell them all. If you sell them in the stores, the people who actually want them. I mean, of course, you get a couple of scalpers, right? But they're not going to get as much volume of that inventory to scalp as they would if it's just strictly online. I agree.
Not to the point where Sony comes out and talks about how Ratchet and Clank, how they're not really talking about the sales numbers on it because there's not enough systems out there to really push the narrative because a bulk of their
I mean,
systems are
they're
sitting on
selling more
shelves.
systems. They're selling more systems than they did the PS4
Yeah,
at that
because
time period.
a
But
good bulk of them
there's
are
a
sitting on
significant
shelves in
percentage.
someone's
Yeah,
basement.
if you look at the attach rate of the systems, the attach rate is abysmal compared to PlayStation 4 because
Yeah.
there's a significant number of systems that, even though they sold, they're not being put into use. They're not
not in the
actually
hands of the
being
people that
used
want them. Yeah.
because there's a scalper that has it in his his warehouse somewhere that he's like just holding on
This
to.
warehouse.
Yeah, it might as well be a warehouse. Like someone's rented out one of those little storage spaces, and there's just nothing but PS5s, Xboxes, and GPUs in there. But it's gotten to the
They
point.
don't do that stuff just to sit them in a warehouse. They trying to sell
Oh no,
them.
no, they're going to sell them, but they're not dropping the price. Like they're going to
Oh,
sell
yeah.
them.
Yeah.
You've seen pictures of scalpers, dumb scalpers who don't know how the internet works, who took pictures of their hoard only to get their information put out there and have to go into hiding, right? But like the smart ones don't put that stuff in their home. I don't believe, right? They
Yeah.
probably would, whatever. But my point is that because of that, and because it's gone on for so long, now that they're getting more inventory of GPUs in, you are seeing these GPUs more frequently being available, but they are available well over the partner ones, that is, well over MSRP. Like a 3070 being sold at Newegg, being sold at Best Buy, being sold at wherever you can get, computer parts. It is being sold for $900. A 3070 that's supposed to be MSRP 500.
Yeah.
Like a 3080 Ti selling for $1,800 when it MSRP'd for what was it, 300?
1,200.
1200. Like and the actual partners are selling them like that.
Sure are.
They should.
Gigabyte,
They
Asus,
should though. Yeah.
because they know people going to pay because they
Yeah.
seen
The
it.
product is worth
Market.
what the market will pay. 100%.
Right. And so I blame the gaming community for not having any kind of I blame all you silly bastards for not having
Hey, y'all
being able
told me
to
it was
resist
clean language on
FOMO.
this show.
I thought it was clean language too. This is going up on all the different podcasts.
I said silly bastards. I said silly bastards.
Oh, he gonna double down and say it 2 more times.
Look, I blame the people who fueled this. When you did not have enough wherewithal, did not have enough restraint to not spend ridiculous amounts of money to complete your PC build, to finally get that PlayStation, that FOMO was just too much for you. You are the reason why things are like this. And so everyone else, for those people who are out there, I mean, I got my 3070, and I hope my boy get one. And I spent MSRP. I refuse to spend
Well, here's the thing, Slow-Mo.
But
and the people that's buying these is not all the gamers, like the cryptocurrency miners and all of that
that's
stuff.
true. That's true.
So,
There is that too. Yeah.
Right, and that's another thing is like it is so hard to get this community to understand. Like, I'm not gonna really go into a rant about it, but this community, for whatever reason, really believes that a GPU is for graphics, and they have no concept of the idea that the general compute available for a GPU makes it a valuable component if you never load up a single graphic with it. So if there's a GPU disparity between 2 pieces of hardware, that's actually a really big deal to the game itself before you ever even get to graphics. Yeah. But people not ready for that conversation, so we'll leave it.
Interesting. We'll bring you back on another episode where you can talk about that.
Now we'll let Leviathan handle that. He can explain it way better.
Well,
Yep.
Tag team, baby. Somo, did you have anything else you wanted to add to this? Because I got one more thing real quick thing before we get up out of here.
No, we can wrap it up because I know this is probably our longest episode.
Oh, it definitely
is. Awesome episode.
There's a lot of cool information.
Yeah.
So I do want to finish it out with asking Code and the panel this last question. What's the best controller out on the market right now? Code.
Okay, I ain't gonna even hold you.
Go
Like,
ahead, tell me. Let's go.
I'm gonna say the DualSense, but like, hear me out. Like, for years, and if y'all follow me on Twitter for any length of time, y'all know I've been a big champion of the Xbox controller because, especially over the DualShock. I mean, the Xbox controller in my mind was perfect, and honestly, I didn't see myself having another favorite over the Xbox controller. But once I actually experienced the DualSense and the DualSense done right, yeah, there's not a doubt in my mind that the DualSense is the best controller that I've ever experienced. Ever, and I mean like a PC peripherals, all of it, the whole thing. I am happy that Xbox is looking into doing something equivalent.
Yeah.
And Everborn said it best today. He on Twitter, he was like, "Man, if we can get the DualSense with the offset thumbsticks, like, man, now that is like something I'm there for." And I think I agree with him. If we can get the Xbox build quality, add those features, then again, like I said, field leadership, they are demonstrating that they're willing to pivot, right? They're not stuck on one mindset and then they just gonna doggedly follow a path no matter what. They're being very fluid. And the idea that they're going to improve the Xbox experience with some of those same features, I'm definitely there for that. But until then, absolutely, DualSense, best controller.
Question, other question, Code. Battery or no batteries? Recharge
Batteries, 100%. If I could change my own batteries, that's the only thing that could make the DualSense better, is if I could change my own batteries when I wanted to, instead of having to like charge it up or put it on the stand or buy another one for if this one run down. Although the battery life, I've been impressed with it, but at the end of the day, I would much rather have replaceable batteries than have to use a wire or charge it.
Okay, that's what I'm talking about. Leviathan. I mean, like I said, you play predominantly on PC. You're still playing on 2014 consoles and stuff. So you probably don't have a PlayStation. You probably don't have a PlayStation 5 yet. But hearing Phil Spencer talk about the evolution of how PlayStation is done with their controller and them looking into wanting to do something with their own controller around that feature set, what do you think that means for the games on Xbox going forward, or just in the industry, with that kind of being something that's standardized across the industry?
Well, so one of the big pet peeves that I have about the Xbox controller is the lack of use. It doesn't have a gyroscope, because I've seen like game prototypes where they use the gyroscope for fine-grained aiming, and then they use the right stick instead of just to turn. You can flick to a degree angle, so it works more like a PC, like using mouse and keyboard. So, like, clicking left will flick 90 degrees, but then the gyroscope allows you to more fine-grained aiming and then turning. So that kind of design, I've always been at least curious of innovating above and beyond just like the base, like the Xbox controller formula that we've been using for a lot of games. And this is just one way to improve. And there's actual, like, people have tested this and found that they're far more accurate with this. It's not mouse and keyboard accurate, but it's closer to that. But the Xbox One doesn't have a gyroscope. It's just the DualShock that has this, and then the Switch. So a game developer is not going to invest the resources necessarily exploring this kind of control scheme when that basically gatekeeps you out of putting it in the Xbox version of the game. So you'd have to design a separate, like, actual separate gameplay version for the Xbox. So that's one thing that I wish Xbox would actually get, because it allows them to experiment with new ways to innovate on gameplay. I've personally not ever used a DualSense controller yet, and it probably will be like another year before I ever physically touch a DualSense controller. So I don't know how well the haptic feedback actually works, but I can from what I've heard about how Returnal works, using it for alternate fire, I would definitely love to see that kind of gameplay play option on Xbox and games between both platforms. Because
I was playing through Ori last week, and I was just thinking to myself just how big of an improvement to the gameplay the adaptive triggers would be on Ori, especially things like the charge attack, where you could hold it halfway for a normal attack, all the way for the charge attack. You could hold it, hold the charge while holding the trigger halfway, and you can run around with the whole thing charged, and you didn't actually have to charge it on the spot right then. And just so many other areas of like all the little skills that Ori has, where the adaptive triggers could add so much, and then of course the haptics with like when you're close to different items and hidden walls and all that stuff. I can just see already on the games that I'm playing on Xbox how those features could benefit the design of the game overall.
Yeah, I agree. You got something else you want to keep going, Leviathan?
Yeah, control scheme is so important for games. Like, so I used to be a lot bigger of a Nintendo fan up until 2010. One of the big games that actually kind of started to shift me away from Nintendo was Metroid Other M. And if anybody's ever played that game before, they know that the control scheme ruined that game's gameplay. Because they insisted on forcing a 3D platformer to only use just the Wii remote for their control scheme, which what ended up happening is they basically had to automate a bunch of things, like an automated dodge mechanic, because instead of allowing you to dodge out of like strafing, it just was too impossible to do in a three-dimensional space. So they basically gave you a dodge button. And because you can't aim the dodge button, because you have one D-pad to control three-dimensional movement and aiming, they decided that just pressing the dodge is a free dodge. Even if you dodge into an attack, it counts as a miss. So like an enemy could attack you, but because you press the dodge button, you're immune. It was basically an invincibility button. And so that game's gameplay was literally ruined by that control scheme because it became so simplistic and automated that the gamer wasn't actually playing the game. And then coupled with the story issues with that game, it made that game kill the Metroid franchise for basically a decade with no mainline new releases. And that was just because they committed to a control scheme that they could have used the Wii Nunchuck for. So the more buttons you give a player that they can comfortably press, the more enjoyable your game will get. Another example is Halo 5's multiplayer. To put it politely, it's painful to play at a high level without using a controller with back paddles because it's a button mashy game. It's closer to like Smash Bros. At a high level, where you have to press the A, B, X, Y button constantly while aiming, moving, jumping. So I use paddles on the back with my Elite controller to map those buttons so that way I can press those buttons while being able to still have both thumbs on the sticks. But it's a game actually negatively impacted by the base Xbox One controller layout, but is fixed with the Elite controller.
So you think the Elite controller is the best controller?
Yes, currently for me, based off of you can get SCUF controllers on PlayStation. I don't know if there's any DualSense SCUF controllers.
Not yet. But they're coming eventually.
Yeah, but even those, at least the DualShock 4 versions, was a painful experience for me compared to the Elite controller. The Elite controller just is so much more comfortable for that kind of, like, at least for me personally. So that's one thing that the DualSense lacks right now, that I guess, is I like my paddles. I hoped that would be the controller innovation that they did with this generation. That unfortunately I'm a little disappointed in that, because I think all games should have the paddles because it just makes more sense. you have your fingers wrapped around the controller. Shouldn't there be buttons there that you just press instead of having to actually move other fingers away from buttons to press buttons? Just use your fingers to press the buttons available that you place your hand on. It's so much more.
That does, yeah. I've never actually used an Elite controller. I think I might eventually. Yeah, I've always just used the standard Xbox controller.
No,
I like
can't do it.
actually like my favorite controller for me is actually so like I'll just do my turn. I do think that the best well, it depends on the genre. If it's a first person shooter, I still can't rock with the DualSense. My favorite for the first person shooters is still the 360 controller. That would be my go-to. Although recently I've been playing around with the series wired on PC, USB-C to USB-C wired the Xbox Series controller. But when I want to get serious, I pull out the 360, a wired 360 controller that doesn't have the massive battery pack in the back, kind of obstructing the back part of it. But everything else, I like the DualSense. The DualSense is freaking awesome. I was interested in it and I thought it was a cool idea, and then I played Astro's Playroom, and Leviathan, when she finally gets your PlayStation 5, Astro's Playroom comes free with it. Play Astro's Playroom. It's basically a demo for the DualSense.
Oh, it literally
and it's amazing.
is. Yeah.
And it's one, the music's fire too, by the way. But it's amazing. It's an amazing game, and it wonderfully implements every feature of the DualSense. And it's just great. It's a great game. I really enjoy playing it, and it was something that I absolutely did not care for at all before I purchased the PlayStation. But the DualSense is awesome. I even have been interested in wanting to know what Ember Lab and what Arcane are doing with Deathloop and Kena Bridge of Spirits, which is going to be on, it's timed exclusive games for PlayStation and PC. Because although I will like to play those games at a higher visual fidelity and performance on my PC, I do want to know if I use a DualSense, will I get the same like features that I would get if I played it on a PlayStation 5? I haven't got an answer on that yet, which kind of tells me that's potentially a possibility that won't be the case. Which now at that point, just because I've enjoyed the DualSense so much and what it provides, that I have to make a choice now. Do I want better performance and better visuals, or do I want a better actual experience with the controller?
Yeah, the immersion and
There is no choice.
For you, there's no choice.
No, there's no choice. You pick performance and performance over everything.
For you, there's no choice. I am considering.
The fact
I'm not
that
saying
you are considering this and you always cap about performance.
You first of all, you don't even know what cap means because you keep using it in the wrong context.
You know exactly.
Capping is when you're lying about something. I don't lie about performance. So how am I capping?
No, I hear you.
You don't know.
I have a co-host that accused me of capping. If I'm excited about something, he says capping.
Okay, yeah, you're right, and I be looking at Hard A side eye when he says that. So I'm probably doing the same thing. Okay, fine.
Yes, you are. So fall back, homie. Thank you.
What? Fall back? What?
Fall back, homie.
Oh, I thought you called me a pony. I was like, man, come on now. The far from the thing that I am. Okay.
Go ahead. No, I mean, no one would ever call you a pony. Stop it for that. Anyway, I think we should go ahead and get this wrapped up.
Yeah,
before we do the outros, there is an announcement that we wanted to make, and we were kind of like, it's an idea that we came up with, and we've been trying to mull over a title for it before we did the announcement. But Forte and I are going to do a kind of a sister show to the DPS podcast, Damage Per Second podcast. This one's going to be called The Quick and the Dead. And essentially what it's going to be is just me and him, and sometimes maybe we'll bring a guest in for someone who's like a maybe an expert in the kind of games that we're going to play. But it's going to be live streaming of us playing shooter games, trying them out and talking about just like the intricate. I can't say this word. You didn't even say it right either. So look, but we just gonna not use we're not gonna use that word. Right?
We just not gonna use it because we both can't
we ain't using that word.
How about we let the older people? Let's let the older man in the room say the word. What's the word code?
Intricacy.
There we go.
The word the code just said. We're going to get into that. We're going to get into what we like about those games, their gunplay. It doesn't matter if it's an old game or new game, but if if it comes into the theme of what we really enjoy, shooters, we're going to play those games, and we're going to live stream ourselves enjoying and playing those games. We'll get into it. It's going to be a lot of fun, whether we get bodied by playing some games that we ain't familiar with as other people who are there, or whether we dominate. It's all gonna be live. It's all gonna be a good time. So again, The Quick and the Dead is, yes, I know that was a movie. That's the reason why we use the title. So before someone says, "Hey, isn't that a movie?" Yeah, no, it was a good movie too, by the way. Check it out.
It was a good movie.
But we haven't got a day of the week, but it's definitely going to be the way we do this cadence. So like this week, DPS was on Forte's channel. The Quick and the on Forte's channel. The Quick and the Dead would be on my channel. It's rotating back and forth as DPS rotates back and forth. But we don't have an actual
start time for
it. Hard time for it yet, but we'll let you guys know.
Yeah.
And we'll also do polls and stuff asking you guys what kind of games you want to see us play. So, there's the interactive portion with the community. Yeah. That's it.
No, I appreciate it. And Slow-Mo, as always, I appreciate you being here, being a part of this amazing panel with me, and keep doing the things you keep doing. I might get mad at you every once in a while for talking junk about my Destiny, but I know you do it from a place of love, and I know you want me to jump off the game. That may not ever happen, but I appreciate you trying nevertheless. So let everybody know where they can find you and what you got going on your channel for the rest of the week.
You can find me on my channel, Slow-Mo Backslap, as well as Twitch of the same name. Tomorrow I'll be streaming either Scarlet Nexus or Splitgate. I'm leaning towards Splitgate, but we'll see. I got some videos in the pipeline. I know I always say that, but I'm at the point now where I don't like doing videos about news updates, because everyone does that, right? If I do a video about something something new that pops up, I want it to be unique and different. If I decide to do something, basically I'm working on stuff that is not really what you see within this part of the gaming community. I want to do stuff like mini documentaries, that kind of stuff. So that's kind of stuff I'm working on. So just kind of be on the lookout for that, and check out this show next week. Actually, no, I forgot to announce this. Okay, let's just get. There will be no DPS podcast next week.
Oh yeah, we forgot to talk about that.
I'm going on vacation on Tuesday. I don't come back until next Sunday.
Oh, congratulations, sir.
Thank you. Yeah, I need it, right? So, but DPS will pick up the week after on my channel. So that would be actually the 29th.
Yes.
The DPS podcast will be back. So no DPS next week, but of course, you guys enjoy your games, of course, in the meantime, and be awesome.
Yeah, definitely. Now, if something does pop up next week, guys, and it wouldn't be no full-blown show, and it might just be a random stream throughout the week, but if it's something that pops up like earth-shattering, like Xbox buys a studio, or PlayStation decides to let Game Pass on their system, we'll do something. we'll do, if it's something,
I will call in
it's
from a beach somewhere. And we would do a live reaction to that. Yeah, like Xbox comes out, we just acquired Square Enix. I will be live from Virginia Beach. That's not where I'm going, because I just named the beach, right? Yeah, so yeah. If that happens, just be on the lookout for that. But otherwise, it's we'll see you guys in 2 weeks.
Yeah, so if something like that pops up, then I'll definitely go live and make it somebody to come in if Slow-Mo can't do it. But outside of that, this is episode 43. It's been an amazing time, and Leviathan, sir, it's it's been a pleasure. 2 times on the show, won't be your last. Definitely want to get you back in here when we get closer to what Halo's got going on when it comes to their reveals and their, especially when they come out with this flight for their beta that's going to be coming very soon. I mean, if you haven't, make sure you sign up for the beta or the flight that they got planned for Halo Infinite. It's available pretty much to everybody right now, but you have to go to Halo Waypoint's website and register, because if you don't register for it, you will not get invited. And you can also do it on PC too. So if you're a PlayStation fan that plays on PC, you can still get available into that flight so you can be able to try out Halo before it comes out. But Leviathan, once again, thanks for being here with us, and tell everybody what you got going on and where they can find you.
Yeah, so basically you can just find me from my Twitter profile. I'm Leviathan Gamer 2 on Twitter. It's not really that complicated, and I'm pretty much socially awkward, so I have no easy way of just basically giving an outro. So we're just going to leave it at that.
Oh, that's amazing, though, man. I appreciate you, man. And yeah, he like he said, he may be awkward, but he's a wealth of knowledge. And ever since he was on BRAP earlier this year, he's always been on the radar for me when it comes to like information and stuff like this. So getting him on the show was always going to be something we had to definitely do. But moving on to the elder statesman of the show, Cole, the man that I'm surprised he ain't call and say, yo, wrap this up 2 hours ago, because he's way past his bedtime right now. Cole, I always respect you, man. Like I said, I don't take anything you say personally when you say it on Twitter, because you know what? I know you ain't saying it to me. And plus, I know what you doing, just like I know what other people be doing in this community. So you always going to be okay with me. And I really appreciate all of the support, especially that you do on Twitter for us, because you always shout us out as one of those podcasts that you listen to. And you don't have to do that, but I know you do it because you truly believe it. And me and Slimba both appreciate that. So let everybody know what's going on with you. You do have a YouTube channel that you do stuff on, if you want people to come over there.
I forgot all about that.
Yeah, you definitely. I forgot about it because I stop through there all the time. But let people know what's going on. And even though, and I know you go say, "Oh, I don't," we ain't nothing about all that stuff. Just let's get up out of here. Tell people where they can follow your shenanigans on Twitter, because everybody needs to know the crap that comes out of your mouth every day at least 9 o'clock every morning. What's going on with you, bro?
So, as usual, that stuff ain't important. If people really want to find me, they will. It's not hard to do. I do want to say, though, that I learned a lot from Leviathan, man. This was a good episode. Lev, thanks for sharing the knowledge and the expertise. He has been my hardware guy for a minute now. This guy's just a wealth of information, and man, I appreciate him sharing with the community, especially given that he thinks he's socially awkward. He's not, but he says that he is, so okay. But he has a lot to share, and Lev, I appreciate you sharing it all tonight, man. Thank you.
Absolutely. So, guys, episode 43 of the books. We may see an emergency episode 44 next week. Actually, it won't even be a 4. I'll still hard A stuff. It'll be a DPS light if something crazy pops off next week. But if it doesn't, we'll see you for episode 44 in 2 weeks on Slumber /channel. Make sure you go over there, sub to his channel, hit the notification bell so you can know exactly when that goes live. Follow the DPS podcast link on Twitter. That's where you get all the information for everything that we got going on. And as always, you guys have a great week. Enjoy your games, and I appreciate all you guys for coming through. And we will see you guys in a couple of weeks. Peace.
Peace.